Welcome back to the channel. This is Storm, and you are watching What If Naruto Became Jinchuriki of 5 Beings. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share and subscribe to this channel. Now wasting our time, let's start the story.
Even though Rin Nohara had passed away a few days prior, Minato's experience as sensei was enough to determine that Kakashi was not handling the situation well. Even though they are well aware that a shinobi's job poses a serious risk to their health, and the same is true for a kunoichi's. Unfortunately, Obito was alive at the time because, if he knew him, he would have been at home sobbing uncontrollably because the boy was essentially smitten with her. The other Hokage faces were up on the mountainside, and Minato had most likely only just become the 4th Hokage yesterday. Now that the day was late, Minato had completed the seemingly never-ending paperwork river when he sensed an Anbu nearby. As the Anbu Hiraishin enters, Minato says, "Thank you for coming." The Anbu wearing a dragon mask said, "It's not a problem, Lord Hokage." Minato displays his privacy seal for the whole space. "The mission I'm sending you on is practically the definition of dangerous, with almost a certainty of one not coming back alive, and normally I'd send another Anbu team on this mission, but you have the best sealing and possess the right skill set for the mission I have in mind in the whole Anbu Black Ops, even better than anybody in the Foundation that Danzo has under his command, while Kager thinks he has me fooled, but the only one here is him." But I'm getting off topic. Okay, about a week ago the 4th Mizuki had passed away. The hidden mist still retained the 3 tails that was sealed within him. Drago nods. About a day later Rin Nohara was abducted by the Undertaker squad while she was on her way home from a mission. It was during the 1-5-day period the 3 tails was sealed into her against her will. I was able to confirm that fact with our medical examiner and looking at the seal formula on her stomach. Drago nods and says, "I see, so I need you to take up this SSS rank mission, and you are welcome to take with you one other if you feel it necessary." Drago stops to reflect and nods. "I do know of one person who can be of some help." Minato raises an eyebrow and asks, "Who might that be?" "Shisui Uchiha. In my opinion an excellent choice. I'll have him rendezvous with you at the gate within the hour, and as per your mission I need you to deal with the 3 tails and make it so that no one else can have the 3 tails, because in my mind the hidden mist has abused their right to having the 3 tails." Hiraishin jumps as he leaves after Drago says, "It will be done," with a salute. Story ends, but narration starts. Now, the dealing with the 3 tails mission took place over the course of 4 days. The 4th Hokage believed that Drago and Shisui were still alive because they sent messenger birds back to the Leaf Village on a regular basis. Additionally, 3 days after they finished the mission, a second messenger bird informed them that they would be arriving a full day later than expected. Fortunately, Minato was able to maintain both his roles as Cage and an expectant father by diverting his attention with the never-ending paperwork and spending more time with a pregnant Kushina. And soon after, Shisui and Drago were back in the village later, at the Hokage's office, Hokage's tower. And despite me sustaining heavy damage, Shisui and I was successful in sealing the 3 tails in a place where our foreign enemies will never be able to reach. "Excellent job, you two." Dismissed. They both bowed as Drago Hiraishin left and Shisui's body flickered. He looked at the date, October 9th, and said, "Well, with that matter settled, I best meet with Lord Third and his wife at my place." In the interim, with Drago, I felt a strong, unnatural chill in the air as I stood on my brother's head in the mountainside picture, which couldn't be good. I hastened to get to my house, which from a certain angle is about 10 feet below the mountain. He entered a room with 3 statues of Shinigami, Yami, and Kami. CJ said, "What is it, Mikaru?" When Drago takes off his mask, his face is revealed as Mikaru Namikaze, who is essentially an older carbon copy of Minato. An unnatural chill has blown over the Hidden Leaf Village. I was curious if you could shed some light on it or make sense of the dark event, depending on who's willing to answer, Mikaru states while observing Yami with a quick. Yami pored over his book he kept close at hand and remarked, "Well, since the unnatural chill, as you called it, would lead one to believe that something dangerous will be targeting the affected land. Well, maybe this event may help. Kushina's due date is tomorrow and we all know who she is host to." Kami utters, "Kurama the 9 tails," with a distressed expression. "Do any of you think that someone will come after Kushina for the 9 tails?" "We don't think we know someone will," stated CJ. "Really, anything you can share with me?" With a sigh, Kami said, "Long story short, we have the one responsible plus one to chaperone the responsible." The 3 primordials notice that Mikaru is still somewhat distracted. Mikaru invites them to approach so he can whisper his idea, saying, "I have an idea which may make that plus one's job much easier." Returning with Minato, "Minato, all right, After a few minutes of being stunned by a surprise guest, everything in my life falls apart. That's because, unless I can stop him, the Nine Tails, who is currently on the loose, will destroy the village. My big brother was genuinely another surprise. He wasn't at all worn out, he was practically riding the Nine Tails like a bucking bronco as he had Hirishin to where Kushina and I were. However, I was able to deal with our unwanted guest, but now we were having trouble. With my narrative, in Minato's arms, Kushina addressed Naruto, saying, "If I were allowed, my only regret would be that I wouldn't be able to see you grow up, Naruto." She uttered, "Oh how I wish that, perhaps we can grant that wish," was said by an individual who neither of them knew. Three figures with a primordial glow appear on Kushina's right and Minato's left as they attempt to make out. "Who are you three?" The words, "Smile pretty in the presence of Kamiyami and Shinigami," were spoken by Mikeru as she appeared in front of them. Minato stood at attention. Rather quickly Mikeru declares out loud, "We will seal the Nine Tails into Naruto." Kushina's eyes widened as she expressed her desire to spare Naruto from such a burden. "Calm yourself Kushina, I haven't told you the best part," says Mikeru. "There's more," Kushina observes curiously. "In addition we will seal your bodies and souls into Naruto." In reaction to Mikeru's remarks, Minato and Kushina's enlarge. "We will be using the Reaper Death Seal and these criminal Jonin will cast the jutsu, Lord Shinigami will handle the rest." After a lot of work, Naruto's parents helped seal the Nine Tails inside him once more. With Kushina and Minato, as she and Minato stroll through Naruto's mindscape, Kushina remarks, "I can't help but feel a sense of irony. I mean about 9 months ago I was the one who had Naruto growing inside me." Minato concludes by saying, "And now we're the ones inside our own child." "Yeah." Kushina with a voice that sounded familiar. "Ah Minato Kushina, nice of you to join us," was said. They notice Mikeru seated at a round table with two darkly cloaked figures and a character they're both familiar with. "Mikeru, how do you get in here? Pull up a chair and I'll tell you." They take a seat. "Before we begin I want to introduce to you the two figures that sit at this table with us. Kushina Uzumaki and Minato Namikaze. I want to personally introduce Hashirama Senju. Because he is meeting the first Hokage in history." Minato utters the words, "The first Hokage," while feeling a little out of breath. Furthermore, it would be a slight understatement to say that Kushina was shocked to see his great-great-uncle because of her great-great-aunt's marriage to him. And Madara Uchiha. Since Kurama the Nine Tails is present, the 5 figures, well, technically 6, are surprisingly quiet right now. "Okay, I suppose you're all wondering why you are all sealed inside Naruto here," says Mikeru out loud. Hashirama raises his hand, and Mikeru notices. "Well, the Primordial 3 gave us a general idea, but Madara and I here don't know the details of our being here." Mikeru looks to the left and says, "That figures, since they are responsible for governing all creation and must be observers as often as possible." Mikeru reaches into his backpack and says, "Well, fortunately, Lord Shinigami himself gave me your orders." "How did you know him, brother?" Minato asks inquisitively. Mikeru places a thick folder on the table and says, "I do assassination missions for him off the books in exchange for any questions I may have." As he opens the book-like folder, Mikeru asks, "Anyone let us get started?" Mikeru looks at Minato and Kushina nodding. He doesn't even need to look at Hashirama to see him nodding because he and Madara both knew he was there. We all know the tale of how Hashirama and Madara went at each other in a place now called the Final Valley. Looking down in shame, Mikeru says, "Well, a piece of this story begins there, and the first mistake made was by Hashirama not confirming the kill." When his brother said, "You mean?" Minato's eyes widened in fear. Hashirama looks at me in surprise because he believed that Kekkei Genkei's techniques couldn't be copied. Yes, little brother Madara didn't die at the Valley of the End. He survived, but not before learning a wood-style jutsu. It may be impossible for an ordinary Sharingan to copy a Kekkei Genkei, but the difficulty is reduced before the eternal Mangekyou Sharingan as Madara's opponent. You should have known your friend better, but moving on. As to be specific as per which technique he learned, the jutsu he learned was a wood-style equivalent of a life support machine. Hashirama looks at Madara, who is quiet and stoic, and continues to process the fact that his first out-of-clan friend was able to replicate a jutsu from his arsenal. After he had set up shop in a place hidden on most maps, he waited and his life was prolonged to the point where the next event of significance occurs. "I think you know which one," Minato says, becoming somewhat stiff and unyielding. "It was during one of your missions, Minato." For those who weren't there or don't know, I'll explain. During the Third Great Shinobi War, the Hidden Stone Village was moving to lay siege to the Land of Fire's border, and the Hidden Grass Village was in the line of fire. Minato at the time leading a genin team that was sent in to take out the Kanabi Bridge. After a couple ambushes and a capture of a teammate, the remaining two Obito Uchiha and Kakashi Hitaki were disputing as per whether or not to partake in the side mission to save Rin Nohara. Kakashi, still internally mourning over Tsukumo Hitaki's suicide, was adamant to staying on mission so that they wouldn't suffer the same fate as his father did about a few years or so ago. All while Obito Uchiha was adamant about going after his teammates' captors to rescue her. But so I don't drag this part of the explanation out. One philosophy discussion, plus one rescue mission, plus one ambush later, Rin Nohara was rescued, but at a price. Obito had saved a, at the time, half-blind Kakashi at the cost of his own life. Maikaru says aloud as Minato glances sadly to his right away. Maikaru declares out loud, the event I described also has a commonality with the Valley of the End. And that would be, was what Kushina said, neither Konoha or Iwa could be bothered to confirm the kill of Obito Uchiha. Which means Obito is undoubtedly still alive, Minato says, about to get to his feet, but quickly stops himself because of where he was. I'm sorry brother for having to tell you this, but you've already seen him, when he threatened to kill your son and then you all after causing your wife unimaginable pain. When Minato heard his brother's words, he felt himself shaking with rage and couldn't help but hold his head in shame for his naivete. Even though I didn't let on at first, a piece of me deep down knew it was Obito under that mask. I at the time didn't want to believe that my student had gone and betrayed everything. You did well brother, all things considered, which now brings us to the last part of the events which lead us here, which can appropriately be called the Three-Tailed Storm. During the end of the Third Great War, Rin Nohara was captured the Undertaker squad while she was on her way home from a mission, and while the Mist Village, who had retained it from the passing of the fourth Mizuki, had forcibly sealed it within her on a time-release seal which would have destroyed the Leaf Village, but Rin already knew that part and was sure to Shinigami that she wasn't going to let that happen. After Rin threw herself into the path of Kakashi's Chidori, she ended the Mist's ambitions right then and there, at the cost of her own life, and all for the village and man she loved in Kakashi. Kushina couldn't resist shedding a few tears. The Three Tails was tracked down and sealed so that the Mist can't ask for it back. Well, that's pretty much all the info I was allowed to read regarding the events that led up today, which now leaves Madara's probation. Probation was what Kushina and Minato said. Yes, around the time when Shinigami claimed his soul, a lot of the darkness that was in his heart had vanished. I postulate said darkness departure was in tune with him fulfilling a goal of passing on his ideology, and unfortunately the Primordial Three need Madara to put a stop to the project he had passed on. I'm afraid to ask, but I know you'll be saying it anyway, Minato responds. The project Madara set up is called Project Tsuki no Mi, or the Moon's Eye, which involves reflecting the Tsukuyomi Genjutsu off the surface, putting the world in an eternal Tsukuyomi where Obito, who has taken up the project, will utterly enslave everything and rule it as a god. Maikaru gestures to Madara and asks, now before I continue, would Madara like to say a few words? At the moment I wish to train Naruto so that he's achieved a level to deal with this, and so that I can rest in peace when his time on this earth is done. Stated without any emotion. Okay, now the next thing I want to cover is the condition you'll be living with under this seal. Your living quarters, a section of wall in the room next to your sleeping quarters, will act as a window and will allow you to see what Naruto sees. The nerves above the room I mentioned will act a way of letting your voices be part of Naruto's subconscious. Kushina and Minato both sighed happily. Maikaru pulls out a folder with seal kanji on it and says, now to the next thing we need to cover. Close the conversation. Start the narration. Maikaru explained the improvements to the seal used on Kushina for the better part of 4 hours. Since Minato and Kushina were sealed into Naruto on the basis of a granted wish, and Hashirama and Madara were sentenced to probation, Naruto would literally have one tailed beast plus 2 sage-level ninja, Hashirama and Madara, and 2 very battle-seasoned Jonin, Minato and Kushina, worth of chakra, smashing them all together to give Naruto a child born into a world with chakra levels that would make Kisame Hoshigaki extremely envious. Maikaru explained a lengthy plan he had developed with Master Jiraiya and Minato's sensei regarding the poison known as hatred that permeates the shinobi world. Resuming dialogue at the end of narration. Okay, I will need to leave now, so I'll leave a couple items for you, Maikaru responds. Which are, a copy of the seal if you all wish to study the seal which keeps you here. Maikaru holds a photo of Minato, Kushina, and Naruto as babies and says, and this. He hands the photo to Minato and Kushina, who were both on the verge of tears of joy, and remarks, that is a very special picture because the seal embedded in the picture is designed to age Naruto in the picture as he grows up. Maikaru was about to turn to leave when he was taken aback by Kushina and Minato giving him a sandwich-style hug. Minato says, "Thank you, Ni-san. I only wish now that there was something we can do for you," said Kushina. After being released by Minato and Kushina, Maikaru says, "You're already primed and ready to do it, and that's being there for Naruto." As he left Naruto's mind, Maikaru remarked, "I'll leave Naruto's internal affairs to you and I'll handle things external to Naruto." Following the nine-tailed attack calculation, 3 days later, 10/13, in the Hokage's chambers. Hiruzen told himself, "So after all that work I'm back to where I started." According to Drago, it would seem that way, as he looked out a window toward the location where the Nine Tails used to be. Hiruzen, who was about to speak, hears Drago say, "I wish to be point man on the detail of protecting Naruto. Now I know you think Naruto is safe in the orphanage, but the reality is a lot of the civilian population can't tell scrolls from kunai minus those select few whose livelihood revolve around ninja telling their tales while eating. Like the Ichiraku ramen shop owned and run by Tuchi Ichiraku. Exactly the example I had in mind, and there are ninja who know Naruto as the new jinchuriki that are still blinded by hatred towards the fox to see the truth that Naruto is not the fox and they're the ones I need to be able to protect Naruto from. Which is why I request Tenzo and Inu to be on the team for the assignment." That's understandable, Tenzo's presence is a no-brainer. I must ask why for Kakashi. Come on Lord Third, even you could piece that one together. Minato's son. Minato is Kakashi's late sensei after all, and having him in his life would definitely have a positive impact on Kakashi's life, am I right? Drago responds. Of course. Hiruzen replies with a warm smile before continuing to write out the remainder of the order. Hand this to the secretary. Soon after, the two members of Anbu were gathered. Okay, we're all here then, let the briefing begin. October 10th, 3 days ago, we all know what happened that day. Both of them nod, and what happened with Lord Fourth. Once more, they nod. Okay then Inu, I wish for you to know that Minato was sealed along with Kushina into his son. It seems weird at first when I think of the concept of being sealed into your own flesh and blood, but then again so is a guy with a transplanted Sharingan from his friend, and the fact that I'm not a parent merits a, oh like I should be the one to talk. Drago pointed to an open blueprint of the orphanage and said, all right, since Naruto was sent to the orphanage due to a technicality, I'm going to present phase 1 of our operation. We will be stationed here. We will monitor this facility to act as insurance that the Third's new law is enforced here, Drago said. I was out of the village at the time, so what law do you speak of? Drago made a slight slashing motion across his throat and remarked, to put it simply, Tenzo, Lord Third made it so that those who spoke of Nine Tails event in front of the children would be punished severely. Okay, that means if necessary we kill the offender and take the affected child or children back to HQ to have his mind and memory be altered by Inochi. Okay, phase 1 will proceed and last for 5 years, understood. After both Anbu agents nodded, the 3-person team leapt to the orphanage. Story ends. Narration begins. The Anbu team's mission was mainly uneventful upon arrival, but when a few employees examined Naruto's file, as found by Inu. At the orphanage, tensions were rising steadily. They had to intervene on 3 occasions. A grumpy man lost his friend after the fox's roar destroyed some buildings and buried him alive in the first incident. And Drago just jumped in front of Hiraishin, who then jumped him to Tenzo, who had taken him to the torture and interrogation, where Ibiki Morino's sadistic smile was the last thing the unnamed staff member saw. The unnamed male staff member's outburst to Inochi Yamanaka, who was busy most of that night changing their minds to the point where they never heard it, had lulled them to sleep while Drago and Inu were busy transporting children. Thankfully, the second time was easier. They brought in another unnamed staff member, this time a woman, who was going to tell a child about Naruto and his secret. When Drago Hiraishin leapt the criminal to a nearby closet, the unnamed lady quickly claimed that the matter was essentially resolved. The last incident occurred during children's playtime in the field outside the orphanage. A female staff member became internally agitated upon seeing Naruto happy and became blinded by rage and anger. She lunged at Naruto, attempting to kill him, but the Anbu team promptly sent out a pair of flash bombs, leaving the staff and children confused and momentarily blinded after the incident. The anonymous female staff member was swiftly removed from Naruto, taken from the orphanage, and her fate sealed. A.N. If you understand what I mean, Q. Skull and crossbones for a visual. And it seems that the last straw was the last incident, and Naruto was expelled from the orphanage by the man in charge when he was 5 years old. Close the story, return to the narration, with the Anbu team. As Naruto was carrying some of his few belongings from the orphanage, Tenzo remarked, This isn't good. Drago, what do you propose be our next course of action? Inu replied. I had a feeling things would turn out this way, but for now we move to phase 2, which put simply means wherever Naruto goes we go. I'll explain the rest. Hopefully by the time Naruto falls asleep I have to report this to Lord Hokage. At the Hokage's office later, while Lord Third was concluding another, troublesome, meeting with the elders, as Inara would say. Hiruzen erects his privacy seal for the entire room as Drago appears. We have a situation. Lord Third, the orphanage man in charge, has cast Naruto out of the orphanage and now he's without a place to call home. Putting his hand over his mouth, Hiruzen uttered, I see that is troublesome. Drago muses, truer words haven't been spoken like the Nara clan have. For tonight you'll mark where he fell asleep and slip him into a bed at a location where you know where he'll be safe and return him to where you found him before he wakes up. In the meantime I will see to arranging for Naruto to have an apartment. Drago Hiraishin's leaves after the privacy seal deactivates, saying, understood. Returning to the Anbu team, okay, new orders, for tonight only I'm taking back to my place and we are to return him to where we removed him, then we get him to Lord Hokage and he'll supply Naruto with a place to call home, Drago said as he appeared. When Tenzo and Inu responded, understood, Drago asks, so, where's Naruto? Should I or do you want to say? Inu asked. He fell asleep. Drago asks, where? The words, you got to joking, are both directed at the dumpster. Naruto is propped up against a dumpster, wrapped up, when Drago looks at him. It's late, you would probably do you some good to get some shut-eye. We'll meet back here at first light at the earliest. And Inu, Drago replied. Yeah, is that clear? A freebie request to the person who answers this question. What is it, Precious? If Tenzo and I are here and you are not, it will be your Precious who pays the price for your tardiness. Yes sir, crystal clear sir, Inu said, raising her voice a little bit. Very good, now dismissed. Inu and Tenzo both nod. When he picks Naruto up, Hiraishin leaps to his abode beneath the mountain and places him in one of the guest beds. The will of fire, what makes this village a family? If this is family to Naruto, will of fire my ass, Drago said. At the compound of Drago, Naruto was placed in one of Drago's guest beds. He placed his hand over Naruto after heating it up because the night air had chilled it. The round table in Naruto's mindscape, Drago sees a lot of repressed anger. Easy to see you saw all that. The fourth tenant, Hashirama, Kushina Madara, and Minato, said, darn tootin' we did. So am I to understand you've decided on when his training will begin? The tenants four said out loud, we will begin. Immediately, was Kurama's standard response, from Drago's point of view. In keeping with Lord Hokage's promise, he did locate Naruto an apartment, though the location, which is in the Leaf's red light district, leaves room for improvement. However, the apartment's location was practically perfect from a strategic standpoint because my team and I could move in quickly to save Naruto. However, the mission to protect Naruto from the village may become more difficult as he reaches adulthood and joins the academy. Because the village began stepping up their efforts to kill the demon, the morning after Naruto was brought back to the location where he had fallen asleep, even with just one of my two teammates, we were overburdened, and by the time we brought the village under control, Naruto had been rained on, pushed on, and bombed on, both fire and paper bombed, by numerous villagers over the course of several years. Before Inu, who was listening on, some members of the civilian council, apparently discovered that they had been tipped off by some Anbu agents of Naruto's protection detail. I couldn't figure out why our mission was failing. It seems that someone sold Naruto and my team out, but the question was who. When the third Hokage had an opposing faction during his first reign of the Foundation Anbu, I only heard rumors about it from my brother. I also learned that Danzo Shimura was the head of that faction and that he was ordered to disband his Root Foundation faction after Hiruzen defeated him. All of the Anbu agents I am aware of are loyal to the Hokage and the Hokage alone. However, it appears that he did not, and Danzo is now a criminal of the worst kind. The kind that can exist in plain sight and that the law is powerless to touch or harm. He will receive his upon my oath, but I have other concerns, such as helping Naruto train his four tenants and Biju. Like one of Tsunade's legendary haymakers from when I was a genin and she was a chunin, I still want to keep a low profile until I tell him my status. I can go undercover as a teacher since Naruto will be joining the academy. I thought I could assist Naruto in his training. However, I noticed that Lord Hokage had called me. At the Hokage's office later, you called for me, Lord Third. Yes, Drago, it is with great reluctance I must cancel your mission of Naruto's protection detail. I need you on another assignment. I understand, Lord Third, it was a failing mission anyway, so what's the nature of the assignment you have? Before I can go into the details, I need to give you background. Drago says, okay, and pulls up a chair. There was a mission to steal a valuable scroll from one of our enemies. Mizuki, one of our Chunin that was on the team for that mission, was sent, but we lost one of our ninja on that mission. It was Mizuki that declared him dead. Now normally that would be the end of that story. I sense a but somewhere. But Mizuki is one of our more character questionable ninja. When we brought back the body, an autopsy revealed that our casualty died of asphyxia, not from his wounds. Meaning he suffocated. Hiruzen responds with a wink, that's right, and Mizuki has been under a lot of scrutiny since that event. I now suspect he's planning something big. And you want me to shadow him and get an idea of what that is? Hiruzen smiles before resuming his solemn tone. I always like it when Anbu finish my sentences with words exactly as I had in mind, but this will not be an Anbu mission. Upon your mosque's removal you shall go by the codename Kelvin, he says. I get it, says Kelvin, taking off his mask. Meet back here in 1 hour to meet your team you'll be attached to. Kelvin Hiruzen's out and nods, the viewpoint of Kelvin. It was now time for me to begin my new task. I spent the hour at home putting on my uniform from my time in the regular army and retrieving my old equipment, which consisted of 21 shuriken and 49 Hiraishin kunai. Lack of perspective, office of the Hokage. A knock on the door interrupts Hiruzen as she is organizing some completed paperwork. Come in. As he and Mizuki entered Lord Hokage's office, Iruka said, you wanted to see us, Lord Hokage. Yes, I wish for you two to meet your additional set of hands for your classroom. According to Mizuki, really, and who might he be? Then there's a knock. Hiruzen turns to the door and says to Mizuki, that'll be him now, enter. The door opens. This is Kelvin, a Chunin who implored me to attach him to your classroom. Abnormally I'd object to this, but due to Naruto's antics I'll take any help I can get. Mizuki silently casts a suspicious glance at Kelvin. Taijutsu class later in the day, when one half of the class sees the three teachers, Iruka, Kelvin, and Mizuki, ganging up on Naruto. Mizuki stay with the remainder of the class that isn't ganging up. Okay, he said, his face showing a moment of contempt. Clearing up the scene didn't take long. Kelvin had taken Naruto to the nurse for a quick dressing change, and because of Kurama inside of him, he recovered quite well. As the graduation exam approached, Mizuki saw how close Kelvin was to Naruto. Perspective of Mizuki. Whoever this Kelvin guy is, it is clear that Lord Hokage doesn't want me to know anything about him, and for some odd reason he gravitates towards the demon fox brat, like he's protecting him or something of that nature. Well, since he's here now, I have to move my plan for that another year. End Mizuki viewpoint. Naruto failed the final exams, so it seems like another year is in order. When it came time for the clone jutsu, he stumbled all over himself, creating a very depressed and ill-looking clone. The viewpoint of Kelvin. In truth, during my time here at the academy I was able to make 3 Bunshin duplications, but then again I'm not in Naruto's position, who currently has the Leaf's head founders, both highly seasoned ninja, 2 battle-hardened shinobi plus Kurama the Nine Tails sealed with him, and frankly I'm surprised he didn't blow half the room to Kingdom Come, from the chakra he was putting out. I can't blame him for having to fail him, but Naruto needs help and quick. The following summer was largely uneventful, but Naruto had a mediocre task attempting to avoid the demon-hunting villagers. However, some of the academy's lessons were dull and tedious in some areas. Specifically, the ninja's movements aspect of the class taught Naruto how to completely avoid some, if not most, of the civilian blockades. Sure, there were still some ninja who detested him, but Naruto was able to outrun and outfox them thanks to his low to moderate level speed, which he attained through the A+ in Taijutsu class. And before long, a new year at the academy had begun. OC Mikeru's codename, Kelvin. It was going to be another year of teaching children their basics. As I look around, I actually recognize a lot of these kids through their parents. In the back I recognize a face from every single notable clan in the village, some of them from their hairstyle that gave Ino Yamanaka, Shikamaru Nara, and Sasuke Uchiha away like a trumpeter in a library. One I recognize through the fang-like paint markings on their face explaining Kiba Inuzuka's presence. I needed only look at their general outward appearance to recognize an Aburame, a Hyuga, an Akamichi, and one Haruno. It was mainly uneventful for the first trimester of the year. Naruto has been a few seconds late for a few classes. Up until a mishap. Kelvin, as I watch, Ko Hyuga is about to scream and reach for Hinata, who isn't yet ready to go home. Hiraishin leaps in front of him, covering his mouth as I do. I point to Ko in a one-armed headlock and say, Lady Hinata, you may stay with Naruto for a short while longer. I need to have a talk with this character. Oh okay. Ko and I stroll behind a tree. And after I let go of him, I pin him to a tree. You have a lot nerve trying to act like a big shot hero in front of her, because Naruto there was doing your job. Now I suggest you reward Naruto for his effort, or else I'm going to have to report your indiscretion to Lord and Lady Hyuga. The reason Ko is a member of the side branch of the Hyuga clan is because he has a curse mark that destroys his Byakugan when he dies and can be forced to use a method of torture. Hinata's mother was fiercely protective of her eldest daughter and had a lot of pull, which didn't help. Would you elaborate? Ko said, rather frightened. Like the Inuzuka, my sense of smell is quite heightened. I could smell you behind the trees. Your duty is to protect Hinata from general harm and bullies, for example. Like what you saw falls under that category. Now are you going to apologize to Naruto, or do I need to inform Hiyashi of your dereliction of duty? Immediately following my words I blinked to see no Ko Hyuga. I see him expressing regret to Hinata for his obvious tardiness. From Naruto's point of view, approximately 30 minutes later, after Kelvin sensei spoke with that Hyuga, I felt as though I had gained her friendship, and then it was time for the yearly run like hell from the villagers, because it was my birthday today and the beatings always seemed to get worse on that day. As a massive mob chases after me, I think in despair, why do they always try to hurt me? I never did anything wrong. A worried voice yells, Naruto, dodge to the left. I instinctively dodge to the left, and a rush of kunai fly by me and embed themselves in the wall where I was standing just a few minutes before. I asked myself, what the hell was that? But I was pressed for time and had to keep running until I came to a dead end when a shuriken suddenly lodges itself in my back. I think in despair, crud, I'm dead. There's nothing to do now, I can't escape. I turn around to see a group of Chunin in a crowd of civilians, all of whom are carrying bats, clubs, and kunai. One of the mob members exclaimed, now you're going to get a demon brat, with obvious joy in his voice. Why? I exclaim, tears streaming from my eyes. Why do you hurt me like this? The front Chunin exclaims, you know exactly why, you damn demon. A civilian yells, you crush my brother and father. One civilian adds, he crushed my husband, kill him. I yelled, I never did any of that. A Chunin yelled back at me, don't lie, and hurled a massive kunai wave at me. All of a sudden, time seemed to stop, and I could see the kunai's path abnormally clearly. Equipped with this fresh understanding, I jumped into the air and then landed on the wall, avoiding the rush of kunai. How? Exclaims a frightened Chunin after landing on my feet. I crouch on my knees and glare at everyone. It is then that I realize the world is black and white, but the people in front of me have blue fire inside of them, while the civilians have hardly any fire at all. A voice that I knew wasn't mine called out, die, and then my body began to move on its own, forming the hand sign of a horse and then a tiger. Kaden. Gokaku no Jutsu. I exclaim as the fireball roars out of my mouth, and the Chunin's eyes widen in shock and terror as the fireball flies in their direction. The people in front of me turn to ash in a matter of seconds. Just then, a group of Anbu and Hokage Gigi landed in front of me, and I suddenly had control over my body once more. Naruto! Exclaimed Gigi in shock. Gigi! I exclaim, my eyes welling with tears, and I rush up to sob into his robes. As I do so, I see that Gigi has a massive blue fire inside of him that is larger and brighter than anyone else. As I sob uncontrollably, Gigi pats my back and says, there, Naruto. Why don't you come with me back to the office and I'll get someone to help you get over this? Okay Gigi. Sarutobi's viewpoint. My heart almost stopped when I saw that Naruto had the Sharingan 2 Tomo in both of his eyes as I held him in my arms. Before you start complaining, I noticed that Obito had 2 Tomo from the beginning when he unlocked his Sharingan. I glanced at the Anbu beside me and saw that Itachi wasn't there, so I whispered to him and tapped his shoulder. I said, get me Itachi, in a worried tone, but in a way that would prevent the Anbu from becoming alarmed. Yes sir. As the others head for my office, the Anbu beside me jumps off when we get there. My secretary notices Naruto in my arms and is about to say something, but I give her a death glare that says, say a fucking word and you're dead. I signaled the Anbu to leave when we entered, and they did so silently. An Anbu wearing a weasel mask entered a few seconds later. Weasel said, you called for me, Sandame-sama? Yes I did. I want you to look at something for me, and before you do anything, and everything said about what you're about to see is to remain a secret from your family at all costs, I said in a serious tone. Weasel responds, yes Sandame-sama, remove your mask so you can see Naruto-kun's eyes. His eyes, sir? Itachi asks as he removes his mask. Yes Itachi, you will see why in a few seconds. What's happening, Gigi? And why is Itachi ni-san present? Naruto queries me. I'm shocked and say, oh, so you know Itachi already? Well, Naruto replies, I knew Weasel because he was always kind to me and occasionally bought me candy while he was on duty protecting me. But you still didn't answer my question, Gigi. What's going on? When Itachi returns in shock, he looks into Naruto's eyes after I gestured for him to approach. He has the Sharingan, shocked, Itachi says. What is Itachi ni-san's Sharingan? Naruto questioned him. The Sharingan is the Kekkei Genkai of my clan, the Uchiha. In all of my clan's history never once has an outsider unlocked out eyes. What is the Sharingan exactly? There are two components to the Sharingan's abilities. The Eye of Insight, and the Eye of Hypnotism. The first is the ability to see the flow of chakras. Chakras are given color by the Sharingan itself, which enables the wielder to distinguish between them. Additionally, they can determine whether someone is under genjutsu because of the irregularity in the person's chakra flow, though not to the same degree as the Byakugan. The Sharingan's second most notable ability gives its user extraordinary clarity of perception, making it easy to identify genjutsu and various forms of chakra, Itachi adds. This also enables the user to read lip movements and pick up on subtle details. What are you saying? Confused, Naruto tilts his head. Itachi, realizing that he is speaking to a non-Uchiha and a child at that, dumbs it down by saying, in other words, you can copy hand signs, pencil movements and see through pretty much any genjutsu place on you or others. I'm definitely going to be Hokage because of my amazing eye technique. With a fist thrust into the air, Naruto says. Itachi, I say to get his attention, I want you to teach Naruto extensive ninja arts and help him get better. I want you to start teaching him how to use his Sharingan properly. This will be an S rank for a long time, and nobody should know about it, not even your closest relatives. Itachi bows. Yes, Sandaime-sama, from Itachi's viewpoint. I reflected on my mission as I made my way back to the Uchiha compound. How in the world does Naruto-kun possess the Sharingan? Kushina and Minato, as far as I'm aware, neither possessed the Sharingan, nor did they possess a chakra that resembled that of Uchiha. Something must have happened to him, but what exactly? As I make my way home, I notice that the other clan members are grinning at me and hailing me as the clan's prodigy. I open the door to find my father, Fugaku, standing there with his Sharingan activated. I think to myself, where on earth did you disappear to? Fugaku made me do it. Without showing any emotion, I reply, Hokage-sama needed me for something, but it's nothing that concerns you or the clan. Isn't he sending you on another mission? Since honesty was the best course of action in this situation, I said, yes. Out or in the village? In village. For how long and at what rank? S rank, and I have no idea. It's something to do with that Kyuubi brat, isn't it? As I walk past Fugaku and head to my bedroom, I reply, I'm sorry, but there is nothing more I can say. I collapse on my bed and sigh in frustration, saying, this is just way too much. I'm already overburdened with work, and now I have to train Naruto in secret. This is going to be a bad month. I can feel it on the wind. Suddenly, there was a knock on the door, and Sasuke entered. You're back, Ni-san. Can you help me with my shuriken jutsu tomorrow? Sasuke said as he ran up to me and gave me an embrace, which I returned with a smile at my ododo. Sasuke gives me the adorable little pout he always wears when he's upset. Sorry Sasuke, but I'm not going to be able to spend a lot of time with you over for a while. I've got a high-ranking mission coming up soon. But you promised. I might be able to help you for a while tomorrow, but late afternoon is when my mission starts. Alright, Ni-san. I lay down on my bed, close my eyes, and go to sleep as Sasuke dashes back outside. From Naruto's viewpoint, I was thinking about what Itachi Ni-san had said about my eyes as I walked home with Gigi by my side to make sure nothing else happened. How do I turn on my Sharingan? Everything seems so clear to me, even the kunai's path, and I wonder how I get to see it like that again. It sounds like a really cool experience. Another voice said, channel chakra into your eyes. This one sounded colder than the previous one, but I followed the voice's instructions because, thus far, they hadn't given me any bad advice. I channeled chakra into my eyes, and the world turned black and white once more, revealing the blue fire in people's bodies. I even noticed some of those Anbu guys following us. Naruto-kun, you shouldn't be using those eyes too carelessly. It's supposed to be a secret, so don't use them in front of others until I tell you otherwise, or your life is on the line, Gigi said to me and stared at him. Okay Gigi. I halted the chakra flow in my eyes exactly as Gigi had instructed, and my vision returned to normal. A short while later, we reached my apartment, where I used the key the landlady had given me to unlock the door, then locked it once more, closed my windows, locked them, lay down on my bed, and fell asleep. The following day is skipped. My alarm went off, so I slammed my fist down to turn it off. I then groggily got out of bed and went to the cabinet with the instant ramen cups when I noticed a note written in a handwriting that I knew to be Gigi's. Itachi, a slave driver, will be waiting for you at Training Ground 7 today after the academy. I'll have Anbu positioned nearby to protect your privacy, so if Itachi instructs you to activate your Sharingan, you can do so. Good luck, and after you've read this note, destroy it. Regards, Gigi. I went to the small stove, turned it on, held the note up to it, and a few seconds later it was all ash. I then began boiling some water for my morning ramen, and while I waited for the water to boil, I went to the refrigerator, opened it, and took out the carton of milk. Suddenly, my hand moved on its own and looked at the milk's expiration date. Then, without my conscious knowledge, I went to the sink and poured the milk out down the drain. What the devil? I believe I'm shocked. The icy voice from the previous evening stated that milk was expired. If you drank that you would be on the toilet all day. How the death are you? I shouted back, but after a few minutes of waiting I get no response. I hear the water boiling and run over to it, and with shock I find my body is working like it should again and moving when I tell it to. After my ramen was finished, sat down and grab a pair of chopsticks. Ikadaimasu. I start eating the ramen, and when I was done I throw the empty carton in the corner of the room when suddenly my body starts moving on its own again and I start picking up the trash scattered around my apartment, and in a few minutes the apartment was as clean as it was the day I move in. What the hell, are you a ghost possessing me? I scream at the voice that hasn't responded to my screams. You made a wise observation, young one. You could say that I am a ghost or that I am merely attempting to assist you. I haven't given you bad advice yet, but don't worry, I won't take over all the time. Just try to be neater than that. After all, how do you think anyone will want to come to your house if it is a cockroach infestation? Speaking of which, the icy voice spoke through my mouth as my arms began to make hand gestures. Insect purging jutsu. My hand then slams to the floor, sending a surge of chakra through the room and sending a massive swarm of bugs swarming out the door. How on earth were those? I flinch away from the insect line. The icy voice replied, cockroaches. Now, if you don't want more of them, then don't be a slob and clean up after yourself. Now, I think you have an academy class to attend, and if you so much as consider skipping class, I'll make you run around Konoha in your underwear. The voice threatened, if you want to be Hokage you shouldn't skip class. Who knows, you might learn something about the Sharingan if you listen. Now move. After that, I regain control over my body, put on my orange jumpsuit, and run toward the academy. Ignoring the hateful looks as I enter the room, I see Sakura-chan brawling with Ino over who gets to sit next to Sasuke Teme. Hello, Sakura-chan. I approach and wave. Stop talking, Naruto. Sakura screams and swung her fist at my head, but in an enraged voice that sounded a little more feminine. My arm suddenly moved again and grabbed her arm. I'll rip that arm off, Titiibane, if you ever try to harm him again. Naruto baka, what the devil? Sakura screams as she tries to pry her arm from my hold, but control abruptly returns. I let go in the hopes that she won't hit me again. I'm so sorry, Sakura-chan, that wasn't me. It was a ghost that is possessing my body. Laughing, Sasuke remarked, ghosts, that's original. It was, shut up Teme, I shouted. You need to remain calm and collected, don't let your emotions rule you, because if you do your thinking will become clouded, that icy voice said. Okay. I then proceeded to sit in the back of the class as usual, and when Iruka-sensei, Mizuki-sensei, and Kelvin-sensei entered, I stayed in class and listened to Iruka-sensei. After class ended, I followed instructions and went to Training Ground 7, where Itachi Uchiha was waiting for me in his Anbu gear. With a slight smile, Itachi remarked, Naruto-kun, I see you got Hokage-sama note. I'm glad you came now to get started on teaching you about your Sharingan. Now I'm going to tell you more about the Sharingan, namely that it is only a tool and doesn't make you invincible, so always remember that. Now we're going to start with some chakra control exercises and stamina training. But I can't be in two places at once. That's why I'm going to teach you a forbidden jutsu made so because of its heavy chakra use, but for you this won't be a problem. Activate your Sharingan, Itachi replied. Okay. I directed chakra into my eyes, causing my Sharingan to activate. My vision went black and white once more, and Itachi then made a single-handed gesture. Shadow Clone Jutsu. A second Itachi then emerges in a poof of smoke. Itachi's just performed jutsu became abnormally clear instantly, and Naruto made the same hand gesture immediately after. 500 more Narutos appeared in the clearing, and Itachi burst out laughing. Leave it you, someone like you Naruto, to have enough chakra to make 500 clones in a jutsu that would even most Chunin can make about 10 of. Itachi ni-san, how can I make so many? Itachi's face takes on a serious expression as he says, call it a bloodline. But enough chit chat, let's get started. I want your clones to focus on chakra control while you focus on physical exercises. No, I want you to start running around the training ground, and once you've finished 50 laps I want you to do 200 push-ups and 200 sit-ups. No, then once you're done with that we'll see what time it is and I'll base what I want you to do next. Yes sir. I exclaim as I begin to sprint across the training area as Itachi teaches my clones how to control their chakras. An additional 9.5 hours later, I started out sore all over, but I learned a lot. I discovered that I have too much chakra, which is why I am bad at Bushin no Jutsu. I also learned about the Sharingan, and although my chakra control increased dramatically, Itachi-sensei warned me that I was still far from finished. I lay down on my bed and locked my windows and doors when I got home. When I woke up the following morning, I discovered a big bag of food in my kitchen with a note inside. You seem to only eat ramen, Naruto, but if you keep going in this direction, you'll become a midget, so I brought you some food so you can eat a more balanced diet. You will eat them. And if I discover that you didn't or attempted to deceive me, my retaliation will be quick but severe. Itachi-sensei, I took out some ink and began writing the seal for preserve on the cabinets. Then I began storing the food in the cabinets and made the tiger hand sign. Naruto looked at the assortment of fruits and vegetables in the bag and silently prayed that one of the voices in his head would take over as I had hoped. My body began moving on its own. The female voice said, "Seal?" Before the cabinets glowed and I regained control over my body. After that, I started to go to the academy, where I was going to greet Sakura, but then I recalled all the times I had tried to be kind but had been hit without cause. That icy voice told me, "Good, you are starting to think before you act like a true shinobi." I chose to sit down rather than start a fight, but then I noticed who I was sitting next to. "Hinata, how are you?" Hinata uttered, G, good N, Naruto, K, Kun. She lacks confidence, but I'm sure with a push in the right direction she could be a very strong person. That icy voice said. After the academy went exactly as planned the other day, I went to Itachi-sensei to continue learning from him. The threat that the icy voice had spoken hung over my head like an axe. Naruto's final viewpoint. 4 years later, time jump. Following the same routine for 4 years, Naruto would go to class and train with Itachi. One evening at the end of the 4th year, Naruto received a note from Itachi informing him that something had happened and that he could no longer train under him. He was instructed to conceal his Sharingan until the appropriate moment and to keep his strength hidden until after he graduated. Naruto was now 5 feet 1 inch tall and incredibly muscular for his age. Hinata was now a self-assured kunoichi with a few lingering doubts after he pushed her in the right direction and heeded the advice of the female voice and the icy voice. Naruto concealed his true feelings for Hinata, his fully developed Sharingan, and the fact that he was aware of the Kyuubi behind a facade of foolishness. All of Naruto's jumpsuits were destroyed during his training with Itachi. He now wore black Anbu-style pants, a black and red t-shirt with the small symbol Naruto had on his jumpsuit sewn onto it, black fingerless gloves, and Itachi's old Genin flak jacket. After finally removing the icy voice from his threat, Naruto decided he was going to break his mask. However, he wanted to play one last big trick, so he wanted to paint the Hokage stone faces in broad daylight. As a result, Naruto set out to accomplish this. He painted the stone faces, but the cold voice insisted that he specifically graffiti the first face. A third voice objected, but it was disregarded when Naruto painted his face. Everyone began to yell at him as he hung there on a rope. They said that he was being disrespectful, but Naruto just laughed and called out. After shouting at them, "You're just jealous that you don't have the guts to do what I did." Naruto then used a kunai to cut the rope and fled, leaving 2 Chunin in his wake unfazed. Naruto continued to run. He eventually concealed himself from them by using a cloaking screen, which he later removed. "Ha, looks like I fooled them." A voice behind him said, "Oh yeah, Naruto." Iruka's voice said, startled. Naruto leapt into the air. "Aye, Iruka-sensei," exclaims Naruto in shock. "You should be in class, Naruto." As Iruka ties Naruto up with rope, he grumbles, "How is it that you always find me?" After dragging Naruto back to the classroom, Iruka says, "That's not important. Come on, it was just a small prank." Everyone except Naruto groans as they say, "Fine. Since you missed it, everyone will review the transformation jutsu." Ino gives Naruto a death glare as everyone lines up. "We're always paying for your screw-ups, Naruto." "Bite me," snarls Naruto. It was one of the gentle voices that said, "You should be nicer to your fellow comrades, Naruto. They're always yelling at me, so why should I not yell at them?" The icy voice says, "I want to throw up when I say this, but Hashirama is right." Hashirama as in Hashirama Senju the Shodem. "Good, you actually pay attention to Iruka's lectures." Well, who are you, mister? I mean, according to Iruka-sensei, only one person hated Hashirama Senju that much, and it was Madara Uchiha. Madara answered, very good, you figured out my identity. Yes, I am Madara Uchiha. Don't ask me how I got here, I have absolutely no idea. All I know that I've got my orders and we'll discuss that later. No, pay attention, it's your turn to do the transformation jutsu, just remember what Itachi taught you. Iruka called out, Naruto, and Naruto snapped out of his reverie. Naruto put his hands together and apologetically said, right, sorry, Henge. A cloud of smoke envelops Naruto, and when it dissipates, he is a very developed naked girl. Iruka responds with a bleed of rocket noise. Got you, sensei, that was my sexy jutsu. With a tissue in his nose, Iruka screams, cut with the stupid tricks, this is your last warning. Naruto had to remove the graffiti from the Hokage stone face after the transformation test was completed. You're not going home until every last bit of graffiti is gone. Naruto turns back to his work and says, like I care, there's no one waiting for me at home anyway. Iruka calls out to Naruto after he has been staring at him with desperation for a few seconds. Naruto. What? Well, if you clean all that up I'll treat you to some ramen tonight. Naruto yelled, all right, I'll do my best then, and quickly cleaned up the mess. 8 hours later, time skip, Ichiraku's ramen was where Naruto and Iruka were seated at his usual silly pace. Naruto was consuming his ramen. Naruto. Why did you vandalize such a place? You do know who the Hokage are, right? Naruto finished his bowl of ramen and said, of course I know. In other words, those who carried the name of Hokage were the #1 ninjas in the village, right? Plus I hear the Yondaime is a hero who protected the village from a monster fox. Kurama exclaimed, for the last time I was being controlled. I know Kyuubi, but I'm playing dumb, remember? Oh right, whoopsie. When Iruka asked, then why did you? Madara bursts into laughter at this statement. I'm going to bring back the name of Hokage one day, and I'm going to be better than any Hokage who came before me. Then I'm going to make everyone in the village recognize my powers. Madara, I believe you haven't laughed since you were 12 years old, shocked, Hashirama says. Returning to his usual icy tone, Madara said, that's a dumb reason to try and become Hokage. Even I, who has never held the position myself, know that. Naruto turned to Iruka, ignoring him. Naruto goes on, by the way, sensei, I have a favor to ask. Do you want another bowl? Iruka inquires nervously. No, may I wear that forehead protector from Konoha? Oh, this? Sorry, but this headband signifies that you are a true shinobi, Iruka says, reaching up to his headband. Yours will arrive tomorrow. Anyway. Iruka bursts out laughing. Did you remove your goggles for that reason? I'd like another bowl. After Mizuki's brief speech and Naruto was flaring his chakra, I got nothing for the end of points A to B below. So I'll make it canon to anime, except that he learned Shadow Clone Explosion instead of Shadow Clones. Naruto. Down. Naruto obeyed and waited for the end. After hearing the shuriken hit something, he opened his eyes to confirm that he was okay. But then he looked up to see that both Kelvin and Iruka were shielding Naruto with their bodies. Why? Iruka responds, because we're both the same. We've both felt the same pain of being alone, says Kelvin. When I lost my parents, I went from a kid who everybody knew by name to ghost. My grades weren't enough to earn attention from my classmates, so I resorted to the one thing I had left, becoming the class clown. At the time I didn't care, all I wanted so for them to see me and to know my name, and my clowning wasn't without consequences and I had to pay for it, Iruka says with a tear in her eye. When I lost my family, my world crumbled. Everywhere I looked I was being given the stink eye, and eventually I realized why. We know that's how you feel lonely and it agonizes you, and we could have been there for you. We let you down and for that we are sorry. What you went through is something no one should suffer alone. Now take the scroll and run. With the scroll on his back, Iruka finally catches up to Naruto after a brief chase. How were you aware of that? Iruka wasn't me. Naruto changes back into Iruka and says, because I'm Iruka. Why are you defending that freak? He's the one that killed your family and your parents. Iruka said, flinching from the pain that cut him off, I don't give a fuck about what you have to say, you are not getting your hands on that. Iruka's sentence was completed by Kelvin with the words, Bloomin' Scroll. While Naruto will never amount to anything in your eyes. In my eyes he's as my nephew and I'm proud to be called his uncle. While I'm a little sketchy on the details with Kelvin. With Naruto, not only was Naruto being recognized by two of his sensei, but he also discovered that one of them was his uncle, whom he had never known existed. Eventually, Mizuki turned his final Fuma shurikens on them, and Naruto had arrived to not only knock him back but also beat him with 100 shadow clones, but Mizuki wasn't yet defeated. Maikaru was stunned by what he heard and said, "Ah, I still have my ace in the hole, the dark version of the 4th Hokage's jutsu." He followed him to the canyons, where he saw Mizuki approaching a device that resembled a cannon. Maikaru threw a smoke bomb at the approach, and Hireishin went to the device and turned it off. "Does he know of the Dai Rasenringen?" he asked. As he points his kunais at Maikaru, who was hanging over the edge, Mizuki remarks, "You should have been my finest servant, it would all be so much simpler." Mizuki launches the kunai at Naruto, who roars. Grabbing Mizuki's left hand, Maikaru declares, "It is simple." Maikaru yells, "I'm gonna kill you," as he drags Mizuki over the edge and drops the edge he was holding into the gulf below. "You tried to fuck with my mind with that silver tongue of yours." Clocking Mizuki on the left side of his face, Maikaru exclaims, "You failed." While battling Maikaru, Mizuki declares, "You don't know anything. You tried to turn me against my own, you tried to make me kill my own nephew." "Tried," was all Mizuki said in his typical arrogant way. Enough was enough, and as an enraged Maikaru choked him to death, Mizuki's head was forced under. He went unconscious, and Maikaru leapt out of the ravine. "I'm sorry for my deception, Naruto, but the reality remains I'm your uncle and at the moment the only blood family you have alive in the village. I wanted to be there for you. I get it, you're Anbu Black Ops and you had to keep your identity a secret. I would like to present you to a few individuals," Maikaru said, extending his hand. Naruto asks, "What are you doing?" "Our minds one in the same," he says, putting his thumb on Naruto's chin and his free hand on Naruto's stomach. He also places his middle finger on Naruto's right temple and his pointer finger on his upper maxilla close to his right eye. In Naruto's head, Naruto asks, "What is this place?" as they pass through a corridor. "Your mindscape. I have some people who would love to meet you." Pointing to a door, Maikaru states, "And here they are behind that door." He approaches the door, takes a deep breath, and then boldly walks through it. He sees no one when he looks to the left, but when he looks to the right, he spots two people whose physical characteristics seem strange to him. But Naruto feels he knows them in his heart for some reason. The man who had the same hairstyle as Naruto said, "Hello Naruto," and he recognized him as the 4th Hokage. "You're the 4th Hokage, and you're here in my mind." Minato nods and says, "Uh-huh," the redhead said, "and guess who I am?" "You couldn't possibly be." "Yep, I'm your," she said, feeling herself being tackled before she could say anything more. "Mom," Naruto said, his eyes welling with tears. Alongside Naruto, Naruto turns to face the 4th Hokage and says, "Then if you're my mother, then that makes you your father. Who else?" According to Naruto, then he pointed to the open door where Maikaru was standing. "Is my older brother, who was beside himself with joy when he found out you were coming into our lives. So comes the big question, why did I seal the Kyuubi into you?" Sounds about right. To put it simply, to turn someone into a jinchuriki is risk permanent alienation from one's fellow, and I would be hated for all time no matter who I chose. And being a family man, I could never ask the villagers to make such a sacrifice. You still didn't fully answer the question. I chose you because you're my son, and I truly believe that with our help you can master the Kyuubi's power. You really think I can do it? Well Naruto, whenever you get to be a father like me, you learn that a parent's duty is to unconditionally believe in their children. The words, "You best be off and always know this, we will be with you always, Tt Ibane," are spoken as Minato and Kushina embrace Naruto. "Ma, you saved me from Sakura's haymaker, didn't you?" Naruto recalled his mother's advice. "You know me so well," she winked, "until we meet again." Returning to reality and the canyons, Naruto shed happy tears as they emerged from his mindscape. "From the looks on your face, that little internal meeting made you happy." "Oh, you have no idea how much." Maikaru pointed to the odd device and said, "Oh, I can imagine quite a bit, but I'll take your word for it. Okay. Now you go collect the scroll, Iruka, and I'll get the late Mizuki inbound to the Leaf Hospital morgue, and get this stuff cleaned up. Later. Thank you for your report. I'll have to delay team formations by a few days pending an investigation, and the Hidden Cloud Village wanting to forge peace with us means I have to postpone it, so that's probably 10 days. Well, I better get Naruto home." A picturesque route near Hyuga compound on the way to Naruto's apartment. Lack of perspective walking home with Maikaru and Naruto. Maikaru observes that Naruto is tense. "What's up?" "I'm picking up a chakra signature in the Hyuga compound that's not native to that location. An intruder," as they dash to the scene, "most likely." Later when they get there, they see a masked figure stealing an unconscious Hinata from one of the character's arms. "You will release her that you should," the intruder asked. "Who are you?" "My name is of little importance, but since you've child kidnapping on your new rap sheet you have a date. My nephew will prepare you for it," Maikeru stated, snapping his finger. A foot struck the back of his head before he could speak or take any action. With additional chakra assistance, Naruto had kicked him. At that moment, Hiyashi appeared. Hiyashi was told by Maikeru, "You're late for the party." "There was a party?" Naruto pointed to the kidnapper who was holding the unconscious Hinata and said, "Yeah," with a classic game of bash the kidnapper with a foot. The Anbu Black Ops quickly showed up on the scene. In the T&I department, later unmasked as the head cloud ninja from the Land of Lightning, the masked character was regaining consciousness. Where am I?" He heard a voice he recognized say, "Torture and interrogation." "What?" Maikeru told him. "I mentioned that you had a date, but I didn't mention that it was with me." Another voice uttered, "It's with me, I'll Ibiki right on cue. I'll leave you to him." Ibiki cracked his knuckles and gave the ambassador a gloomy smile. The ambassador's agonized cries reverberate into the night as Maikeru leaves. With Naruto's viewpoint, when I returned to the dingy apartment, I sensed someone right away. I drew a kunai and threw it at the spot where I sensed the chakra source, but the person blocked it, stepped forward, and the light revealed that it was Itachi. "Itachi-sensei, what's going on here?" "Naruto, after tonight you won't be seeing me any longer. However, I have taught you all that I can. You've been an excellent student, but always remember the Sharingan is only a tool. It doesn't make you invincible, and should you ever have need of information on your bloodline, go to the Uchiha clan compound and go to the clan's dojo. Head to the main hall, beneath the 7th tatami mat from the far right, and walk all the way down there. You will find the terrible truth of my clan's history." Itachi then disappears and gives me a neck injury, and that is all I hear before dying was, "Naruto, forgive me, but what I'm doing is something that must be done." End Naruto viewpoint with Makoto. Makoto is looking up at the night sky. When she recalls what happened a week ago, she can't help but feel uneasy. Rewind. Fugaku and Makoto were assembled ahead of the other clan members. To a thunderous round of applause, Fugaku declared, "In 4 days we, the Uchiha, shall rise up and take our rightful places as the rulers of Konohagakure no Sato, and then the whole village will bow before the Uchiha, and I shall rise up as the Hokage and lead the Uchiha to true glory." Everyone then activated their Sharingan and began laughing uncontrollably. Makoto acted as though she agreed with it, even though anyone looking at her would see regret in her eyes. Flashback ends. Makoto retreated inside to deal with her cunning husband and began preparing dinner after saying to herself, "Itachi, I hope that you don't have to get involved this." Alongside Itachi and Maikeru standing above the Uchiha clan compound with Itachi, Maikeru questioned, "So you're really gonna go through with it?" "Yeah," Itachi replies, his tone containing sadness. "I promise, no, I solemnly swear, that Danzo will get his, on that you, the Uchiha, and he can depend." "Thank you, you best go now." As he disappears, Maikeru declares, "Your mother and brother will be in good hands. I swear on my name as Namikaze." After a short while, Itachi leapt down on the Uchiha compound, pulled his katana from behind him, and used his Sharingan. A number of clan members gave him smiles, but Itachi grew ruthless and began murdering them by slicing and hurling shuriken, eliminating an increasing number of the Uchiha. Every kill left a flaming hole in Itachi's heart, and when a police officer attempted to kill him, a sword slashed through him from behind. "Thank you, Madara-sama. Let's move forward, we don't have a lot of time. Just remember your restrictions, don't hurt my little brother or anyone else from the Leaf." The two of them split up and begin destroying the clan. After saying, "I remember," Itachi eventually lands on a telephone pole and observes Sasuke sprinting in the direction of their home. Itachi thinks, "I'm sorry Sasuke, sorry that I didn't tell you everything." Then he disappears and resurfaces behind his mom. With a glance at his eldest son, Fugaku remarks, "So you have decided to side with the village, Itachi?" "Yes, I have, father." "What have you done with Sasuke? He hasn't returned home yet?" "Sasuke is an innocent and will live." "I see, and I assume you won't kill Makoto." "Unless she sides with you, I won't." Itachi begins to cry as the night wears on, and he then breaks his father's heart by saying, "Even though I don't agree with your decision, I still support you, Itachi." After that, Itachi goes into the darkness to wipe away his tears. At that moment, Sasuke enters and discovers his father's body. Then Itachi emerges from the shadows and turns to face his brother, his expression once again devoid of emotion. "Big brother, what's going on? Why is father dead, and why is the clan dead? Who could have done this?" Sasuke's left arm is cut when Itachi throws a shuriken, saying, "Foolish little brother." "Big brother, why?" "To test the limits of my abilities." Sasuke's anger increased as his Sharingan began to spin and subliminally activate. You mean you slaughtered out clan and father, everyone we ever cared for just so you could find out how strong you are? He asked. It is of vital importance to me. You are out of your mind. Sasuke yells and lunges at Itachi, who sidesteps and strikes him in the stomach before meeting Sasuke's gaze. In Mangekyo Sharingan, A.N. Tsukuyomi plays canon. Sasuke screams and flees the house, frantically trying to save his life. Sasuke yells, "Stop it, I don't want to die," as Itachi materializes directly in front of him. Foolish little brother, you're not even worth killing, so by all means cling to your wretched life. Why exactly have you done this? Itachi turned around and flashed his Mangekyo Sharingan, foolish little brother. As I told you, it was to the limit of my abilities and I wanted to make myself as strong as possible and I wanted to find a worthy opponent and I believe you have that potential. I have acted like the older brother that you desired for one purpose, because you have the ability to bring out my maximum potential. You've been jealous of me and you have resented me, you've harbored hopes of surpassing me, so I'm letting you live for my sake. Itachi begins to cry, but Sasuke doesn't notice, so he dismisses it as nothing because of the fear and rage he is feeling. 8 hours later, time skip, outside his room. Sasuke begins to wake up to the sound of nurses conversing. Have you heard that last night the entire Uchiha clan was killed? Outside his room, a voice says. Just 2 people have survived, Makoto and Sasuke, a second voice answers. Is mom still living? Hopefully. Sasuke thinks to himself suddenly, a familiar voice comes from the other side of the door. Let me in, I want to see him. I am sorry Makoto-sama, he is still asleep and he needs his rest. I don't care, my son is in there and I am going to go see him with or without your permission. Now let me see my son. Makoto explodes. Yes, Makoto-sama. Makoto Uchiha enters through the open door. Mom. After rising and rushing to embrace his mother, Sasuke breaks down in tears and says, I thought Itachi killed you. Makoto pats Sasuke's head and says, it's okay, sweetie, mommy's here. Mom. What made brother Itachi do it? Sasuke queries. Makoto shakes her head and says, I don't know, sweetie. Damn it. Fugaku must have attempted to carry out the coup at that moment. Sasuke hears 2 more voices calling from the other side of the door. Itachi. I am so proud of you and I understand that you must be feeling unbelievable sorrow, but you defended the village and I hope that Kami-sama is merciful on you when you die. With the 3 primordials, Kami, as Kami listened to Makoto's idea. Given the circumstances, I'm willing to give some level of leniency towards Itachi come Judgment Day for him. Returning to the mortal plane, Naruto's voice calls from the door. Let me in, Sasuke needs his friends besides, and if you even dare calling me the name you're thinking, I will have you arrested for violating an S-ranked secret. The door opens, and Naruto enters with a solemn demeanor. Naruto, you're here. Sasuke exclaims, perplexed. Yay, I heard what happened and went to check on you to see if you were okay, Naruto responds. Am I alright? Let's recap. I just saw my big brother butcher my clan and our parents in front of me for reasons I've yet to figure out. Makoto said, hey, giving him a gentle headshake. What does that make me? Okay, our father, and to top it all off I am really angry. Naruto smiles at his friend and says, that's understandable, Sasuke, I know what you must be feeling. How did you not have parents? Sasuke glares, and Naruto looks him in the eye while trembling with anger. Shows what you know, Sasuke. You're right, Sasuke, I never had parents and I never knew them. Naruto's expression darkens. I only recently discovered that I had any family at all. Naruto's eyes flash with rage. I've always wondered if my parents despise me because I had nothing growing up, and you dare to claim that I've never experienced pain. But what I truly wanted to know is, are you okay? Naruto asked, taking a few deep breaths before appearing lighter. Makoto looks at Sasuke and begins to stroke his hair while he sobs into her clothing after Naruto left, saying, well, you need some time to mull things over, so I'll leave you to it. Makoto comforts her son by saying, there's Sasuke. Man, I thought I had Naruto figured, but man, do I owe him an apology. Alongside Naruto, Minato uttered the words, that was a little on the harsh side, from below. Trust me, Dad, if you were in Mom's position as a former jinchuriki you wouldn't hesitate to agree with me. Oh yeah, Minato remarked, glancing at a displeased Kushina. How did I overlook that? Hey Naruto, was a voice calling out to him at a training ground. Hey uncle, how are you? I'm going to teach you a few things. For instance, what? As he vanishes in a yellow flash, Mikaru utters, the art of sealing so that you can do this, he repeats, but this time he is behind him. "Aw dude, that's awesome. Your parents can help you train." "How?" "Simple. Your shadow clones are more than just you. They're also those yourselves that can go places you normally wouldn't risk yourself going into." Maikaru says, "If you want to experience what I have in mind, clone sign plus soulless shadow clones plus an image of the soul you wish to appear equals," and instructs Naruto to finish his statement with an action. Soulless shadow clone jutsu. According to Naruto, he had concentrated on his desired appearance. Minato and Kushina appeared as the smoke clouds grew. "Alright bro, let's teach your boy the jutsu which froze the blood of our village's enemies." "You took the words right out of my mouth, let's do it." Begin the story. As Naruto had finished learning the Hiraishin, they spent the majority of that night teaching him the ins and outs of the device, including writing the Shiki formula, having it deployed to a location via hand contact during the heat of battle, and creating the kunai to end the nighttime session. After that, he and his mother began practicing kenjutsu. Additionally, shadow clones had assisted with his Hiraishin by the time that training was finished. Naruto could as well be in a class of kenjutsu practitioners who are jonin. Now it was Madara's turn to instruct Naruto. Additionally, he spent the majority of the day improving his speed to make his Sharingan even more lethal and learning how to use it independently of what Itachi has been teaching him. The Sharingan made it relatively easy for him to learn his signature move, the Great Fire Annihilation, and some fire-style jutsu, including Great Fire Destruction. As the training progressed, Naruto learned the Great Forest Technique, Triple Rashomon, Deep Forest Emergence, and Wood Clone, Multi and Regular, Jutsu from Hashirama. And as the day came to an end, "Well Naruto, there is literally no way you're not going to pass the teamwork field test," said Kushina. Minato makes a smiley face. "The field test for teamwork? It's something the jonin do to filter new graduates from those irksome fangirls from genin who deserve to be amongst our village's regular forces. So what happens to those who don't succeed? They fail and are sent back to the academy or dropped from the program altogether." "What are you saying? If you are deemed unworthy or unfit to be a shinobi of Konoha, your chakra will be sealed off and any memory of the shinobi program erased from your memory." In order to reassure her son, Kushina said, "But we all know that you won't fail." Madara said, "Don't worry, young one, you will do fine." "Yeah," said Hashirama. Minato smiled savagely and said, "Anyway, back to training." Naruto swallowed at his father's grin. At the Hokage's office later, picking the team's Lord Third. "That I am. Want to add perspective with a second set of eyes?" "Yeah sure, why not?" Hiruzen displays the files of Naruto, Sasuke, Sakura, Kiba, Shino, and Hinata and states, "I'm confident in my decision, but there is the matter of this batch of candidates." "So, what were you thinking of?" "Interesting," remarks Maikaru, seated across from him. "At first, I would have considered placing Naruto, Sasuke, and Hinata on the same team, but even though we aren't at war, a team with 3 dojutsu might be a little too strong. Therefore, despite her rather regrettable attitude toward Naruto, Sakura Haruno, Naruto Uzumaki, and Sasuke Uchiha must be the members of Team 7, Hiruzen concluded. Maikaru pointed to the pictures of Naruto, Sasuke and Hinata and remarked, "Well, with the 3 dojutsu in these 3, if we were at war for argument's sake, this sort of team would indeed create an enormous splash. I do not want to give counsel Lady Haruno the satisfaction she got away with spoiling her daughter via getting her paired up with, but the only clear choice for Kakashi's Team 7 are these 3. Tell me about it, please." Her mother was a real pain in the ass in her day, and I feel sorry for Naruto and Sasuke because they had to live with her. "Tell me about I remember CJ backhanding her into a wall once upon a time." "And the other teams?" Hiruzen remarks, "Hinata Hyuga Kiba Inuzuka and Shino Aburame under Kurenai Yuhi. They will specialize in a tracking team because who knows when you will need a team like that." Maikaru nods. "And the new Ino Shika Cho team I understand is in the care of your son Asuma." "Yes," Maikaru responded. "That's correct," Hiruzen remarked. Maikaru gets up to leave. Maikaru, standing beside him, Maikaru said, "Yes, Lord Hokage. Thank you for the advice, Maikaru, and if I need anything else I will call for you. Good night, Maikaru." "Good night, Lord Hokage," Maikaru says, bowing, and leaves. Naruto, it was time to get to know my new team and pass the field test, and I was determined not to fail. A Shikamaru greeted me as I rolled into the classroom where my graduating class was gathered, and it seemed like she wasn't pleased to see me. "Naruto, last I checked this isn't a class for dropouts. Been to an optometrist lately?" "No, why?" I thumbed my new headband and said, "Check the forehead, genius." "What a pain," Shikamaru muttered as he retreated. Hinata is standing there when I turned to look around. "Hey Hinata." Hinata blushed slightly and said, "Hey Naruto," to him. Hinata observes Naruto's new headband. "I knew you'd make it, Naruto." I said, "Thanks," to her. Suddenly, Sasuke emerges from behind them. "Come with me, don't argue," Sasuke said, dragging Hinata and me to a vacant row of chairs. Ushering me to sit first, followed by Hinata, Sasuke entered first. "Why did you?" I asked, but Sasuke interrupted me by silently holding his pointer finger in front of me. Then extended his hand to show off his fingers before silently counting down from 5. When he reached 1, he gestured toward the door, where Hinata and I turned to gaze. Sakura and Ino then burst in. "Oh, I guess it would be cruel of me if I let Sasuke get glomped by his fan club," mentally stated. From inside his head, Kushina said, "Yeah, and plus you'd probably have to explain to Makoto why her son suffocated from the crushing grips of his fan club." In her typical screechy voice, Sakura said, "Move you too, I want to sit with Sasuke." Sasuke shot her a furious glance and remarked, "Last I checked, Sakura Haruno, I am fully capable of deciding who I sit with, and if you weren't selected, oh well." "You heard the man," I said, projecting a menacing key aura. Sakura quickly retreated and found seats of their own with her Sasuke fangirl club. "Naruto," was what Sasuke told me. I look over at him. "I apologize for my behavior at the hospital," Sasuke said earnestly. "Sasuke," with a matter-of-fact tone. Sasuke concluded the brief speech by holding out his hand in friendship. "Let me finish. I was so angry at my brother that I was blind to the fact that you've suffered just as much, if not more, than I ever had. So what I'm trying to say is, shall we let two bond brothers let bygones be bygones," he said. This gesture made me smile, and since Madara Uchiha was inside of me with, "Bygones bro," as we shook hands, I might as well accept his apology and offer to become brothers. Inside the head of Naruto, Madara and Hashirama watched. Recalling the day they shook hands, Hashirama remarked, "Kinda brings back memories for us, doesn't it?" According to Madara, I'll say, though aspects of those memories still haunt me, during a recall. "You were a different person, Madara, you've changed since those days." "Yeah, I guess you're right. The Primordial 3 has seen fit to give me a second chance and I'm not gonna blow it." "You're darn tootin' right, and we'll help you," Hashirama said, with Kushina and Minato at his sides. Returning to reality, Naruto Uruka entered the room as if at the exact moment. "All right, graduates, it's time for the team selections. The record Lord Hokage has chosen these teams, and his decision is final, so let's get started right away." I smiled as I turned to face Sasuke. "Am I correct, fangirls?" As they looked at the disillusioned faces of Sasuke's fan club, I inquired. "Tell me about it. I mean, how did they even get past? It was like their parents threatened the jobs of the academy teachers if they didn't pass their kids." "Am I correct, the civic council?" Recalling all the grief I had experienced from them, I said. Sasuke rolled his eyes at the thought of them attempting to set him up with a marriage, saying, Screw those guys." Squad 7 with Kakashi Hitaki, Sasuke Uchiha, Naruto Uzumaki. Sasuke and I say, "Sweet," to one another as Sakura was boasting to Ino and Sakura Haruno. Silently, I told Sasuke, "We're doomed." "My sentiments exactly, bro," was Sasuke's quiet way of speaking to me. Later, Naruto Kurenai showed up at the classroom to retrieve her group. Before she got up to go, Hinata told Naruto, "Luck be with you." I returned the compliment, "Thanks, same to you." Sasuke said softly so Sakura wouldn't hear, "Yeah, given the fact Sakura's on my team, I'm going to need all the luck I can get." After waiting for what seemed like hours, "Say Dad, weren't you a sensei like that lady that was here?" "Yes, I was. But why?" Minato inquired. "Can you tell me anything about this Kakashi?" "Well, Kakashi is son to the late Tsukumo Hitaki. Note how I use the term, late, in Tsukumo Hitaki. Oh yeah, I heard about him from Neko from the Anbu Black Ops. He was a true blue superstar. Genius that rivaled Inara. Senses to make the Inuzuka green with envy. Powerful to be stronger than the Sannin. It's a true shame. I would have loved to meet him." Yeah, his son was no exception. His skill gave him rivals whether he wanted them or not. A notable rival was a Uchiha that was in my care. Obito Uchiha. Right, but I'll be too long explaining the details. Internally he still grieves for the loss of his teammates Obito, who reportedly traded his life to preserve Kakashi's life, and Rin Nohara, a girl who was loved by Obito, who was more lean towards Kakashi in the field of love, which explain a lot for some of their matches against one another. "Is she dead too?" Yeah, from the report she was under a jutsu's influence which would have destroyed the village. She was able to break loose, but the only way she could get free of the outside influence controlling her. Kushina. She had to die, and the only means available was one of Kakashi's most lethal ninjutsu, said Minato. Ouch, said Hashirama. Squirming at the idea, I looked at Sasuke and a picture of Itachi-sensei and said, yeah, in some ways I get how he feels and I'm pretty sure Sasuke would too. I was finally tired of waiting patiently after what seemed like an additional hour. Naruto, weary of waiting, I said, okay, he's late and is going to pay a penalty. Makes one curious of how the penalty will be collected, said Sasuke. Elementary Sasuke, with a simple dusted up eraser, a boxing glove and a small spring, and a little oil trail equals a fit of laughs for us. After the prank was set up, Naruto Sakura uttered, I hear footsteps. That'll be him. He avoided the eraser quickly because he was the Cyclopean Jonin, but he didn't notice the oil on the floor. The boxing glove nailed him as he slid across the floor, his arms flailing for something to grab onto. He was so stunned that he slid back to the threshold, where the dusty eraser dusted him. WOOH. Sasuke gave the thought, and this guy is a Jonin. Some doubt. Once Kakashi was upright. Naruto. Okay, after this meet I surmise that these three are all idiots. Okay, you three nuts, meet me on the academy roof in 1 hour. Sasuke took a bite out of his lunch and remarked, well, this is a pisser, we've got one of my fangirls on our team. As I bit into my lunch, I said, I hear you, Sasuke, but there's not much we can do without either one or both of us getting arrested. Sasuke had a slight shudder when he thought, which becomes the question, how do we handle Sakura so that we stay as genin and not get sent back to the academy or home in a matchbox? I swallowed another bite of my lunch and said, well, what if we commission Kurenai to help? She's an expert in the field of dealing away with fangirlism. I recollect my uncle's remarks regarding the entire mission speech when I say, but the question is, can we afford it, because hiring any Jonin isn't cheap. Sasuke said, looking quickly to his right, well, if I ask my mom, I think she can be of some help to us, but it is you I'm concerned about, because he paused to clear his throat before continuing, situation, with you, I'm in the dark about your finances. I tell him, oh, I can afford it, don't worry about me, remembering my uncle's expenses. You sure? Asked Sasuke. Yep. Well then I think our course of action is clear. Yes, we must recondition Sakura. I looked at a clock through the window and said, anyway, we should meet Kakashi on the roof. Naruto charged after Sasuke as he ran off laughing, saying, race you. With ease, Naruto outran Sasuke and reached the roof first, followed by Sasuke and Sakura, who arrived a few minutes later wheezing and huffing. As he read his book, Kakashi remarked languidly, well, now that you're all here, we can get started. Let's start by introducing ourselves. Sensei, what do you mean? Sakura inquired. And she's meant to be the intelligent one? With genuine sarcastic surprise, Madara asked. I really do pity you, Naruto, you have to put up with such a weak woman. If I were in your position I would have killed her long before now, Madara said in my head. Kakashi explained to three expressionless faces, I mean, we should introduce ourselves starting with your name, likes, dislikes, and dreams for the future. Since you have no clue about anything, I'll start off. I'm Kakashi Hitaki. I have no desire to tell you my likes and dislikes, my dreams for the future. As for my hobbies, I have lots of hobbies. All three of his students are held accountable, all we got was his name. Next, Pinky. I'm Sakura Haruno, and while I enjoy Sasuke-kun, I don't like Ino Pig and Naruto Baka. Naruto said in his mind, like I give a fuck if you like me or not. Sakura looked at Sasuke and squealed, my dream for the future is. The complaint from Hashirama was, fangirl. Kushina recalled Minato's fangirls pursuing him and said, tell me about it. Kakashi remarked, next the blondie, my name is Naruto Uzumaki. I like ramen, Hinata-chan, training my friend Sasuke in the village. My dislikes are fangirls, people who can't tell the difference between a kunai and the scroll it is sealed in, and people who judge before getting to know someone. My dream is to bring peace to the shinobi world and become Hokage. Next the Uchiha. My name is Sasuke Uchiha. I like my friends training and my mother. My dislikes are fangirls and weaklings, Madara remarked with a small smirk, like a little mini-me. My dream is not a dream because I will make it a reality. I'm going to restore my clan and destroy a certain someone. Alright, tomorrow we will meet at Training Ground 7 at 6 AM for our first mission, Kakashi responds. What sort of mission? Naruto queries, if I tell you I can guarantee you won't like it. Sakura says, tell us Kakashi-sensei. A survival exercise. However, this survival exercise has a 66% chance of failing, meaning of the 27 graduates only 9 will make it onto a squad. Kakashi then turns to the pupils. Fuck. Sasuke and Naruto swore to themselves, but not unexpected, was what my father said in my mind. I will be separated from Sasuke-kun if I fail. No, 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 no. Sakura let out a mental scream. I'd recommend not eating breakfast unless you enjoy tossing your cookies. That fork is a no-brainer, Naruto muttered to himself, have food in my belly and pass, or be starving and fail. I'm going to disregard his advice that we shouldn't eat, Sasuke muttered to himself. Sakura muttered, good thing I'm on a diet to keep my figure for Sasuke-kun. I've got this in the bag and that means I'll pass with Sasuke-kun and he'll love me and then we'll get married and I'll help Sasuke-kun revive his clan. Sakura was so excited about this. She lives in her own little world, right? Sasuke thought, I'm sweating. Not at all. Following Kakashi's departure after speaking with their guardians, Naruto and Sasuke obtained the funds required for the mission. Office of Hiruzen. After finishing his paperwork crusade, Hiruzen hears a knock. He said to the door, enter. Naruto and Sasuke enter. Ah, Naruto. Sasuke, how can I help you this evening? Let me start by asking, was it your idea or the civilian council's idea to put Sakura on a team with me? Replied Sasuke. Civilian councils primarily. Sasuke silently and dejectedly cursed the civilian council, saying, darn it. Naruto said, I am so sorry, in a sympathetic voice. Now on to business. We've put our financial heads together and came up with the money necessary for a low B rank mission, and we humbly request for Kurenai just her, and the mission we have in mind is right up her alley. Naruto, unless you tell me the reason why you need Kurenai, no deal. We need her to assist us in breaking Sakura's fangirl tendencies, and if Kakashi fails us the civilian council will be on your ass demanding an explanation for the failing of the Uchiha for who knows how long. As he beckoned a runner to arrive, Hiruzen remarked, your point is well made. As he entered, Mikaru remarked, you called Lord Third. Hiruzen told Mikaru, I need Kurenai here in my office ASAP. As Hiruzen left, Mikaru remarked, aye Lord Third, don't you three go away now, I'll be back in a flash. Mikaru returned with Kurenai in tow approximately 4 seconds later. Lord Hokage, you called for me? Kurenai inquired. Hiruzen gestured to Naruto and Sasuke and said, yes, I did. These two have a mission for you. How in the world are 2 recently graduated genin able to afford to hire a Chunin for a real mission? Kurenai expressed surprise at the idea that 2 genin could spend so much money on a mission of B rank. Naruto rubbed the back of his head and remarked, well, I've been saving up for a while and Sasuke is going to help me cover the rest. When Hiruzen got up to leave, Mikaru held the door open and closed it after Hiruzen passed through the doorway. Boys, I'll let you explain the finer details in the meantime. I have another task to see to with my grandson. All right, what is the goal? Kurenai inquired. It's a low B rank for you to beat the fangirl tendencies out of Sakura. Use any means necessary to whip her into shape. Sasuke replied as he came forward. Kurenai said slowly, I see. When do I begin this mission? After tomorrow. Your time frame is as long as you need. Nodding, Kurenai said, all right, the next morning. About half an hour before 5 o'clock, Naruto and Sasuke had woken up. Both morning preps were completed on time. Sasuke, with some help from his mother, and Naruto, with his internal tenants and clones. About halfway to the training grounds, they met. Okay, we're clear on the plan. I replied, recalling yesterday. Sasuke remarked, yeah, Kurenai-sensei said she'll be with us in due time, so in the meantime, we employ the art of deception to trick Kakashi into thinking we're not going to fight like a cohesive unit, as a stall for Kurenai to get to us to assist in the genjutsu we use to knock the fangirl out of Sakura, and when we are successful and Kurenai's been paid we coordinate with Sakura and blow Kakashi clean out of the water. Naruto elaborated. And then goodbye academy return trip. Hello to the rest of our life, Sasuke said. Naruto gave Sasuke a high five and remarked, I hear that bro. They choose a spot in the trees to eat their breakfast after realizing they were the first ones there. When Sakura arrived with the last morsel, Naruto dug a hole with a low-key wood style, and Sasuke burned the evidence of their breakfast consumption with a low-powered fire-style jutsu. Sasuke left to inform Sakura of his presence. Naruto filled the gap. and went out there with him. Not at all. The majority of the afternoon was spent by Naruto and Sasuke deceiving Kakashi with misdirection and deceit. A.N. Despite the fact that the concepts are similar. Kurenai then showed up just in time to see Sakura running wildly after her beloved Sasuke, who had fled into the woods. It wasn't until Sasuke used his superior speed, to Sakura's, to knock her flat on her backs. When Naruto had emerged behind his gullible sensei. I said in my head, "Say Dad, can I borrow your voice?" Minato asked himself, "Why would you?" And then had a "Oh," Minato said, "That's why. Kakashi, I can't believe how much that child resembles sensei." "Now I'll finish it," a voice behind me said. "We told you, didn't we? You can't beat us." I recognized it so well. Naruto uttered the words, "You lose, Kakashi," as Minato sensei's face materialized over him like an aura. Such incredible speed. How does he sound now? Just like sensei. Kakashi disappeared in a puff of smoke, revealing himself to be a shadow clone. "Nice try, Naruto, but you'll need to do better than that to beat me." When Naruto detected Kakashi's chakra signature, he hurried over and said, "Damn," he witnessed Sasuke and Kakashi fighting en route. "You're certainly strong, you and Naruto both, but if you attack me head-on like this you'll only end up getting hurt." Kakashi grinned. Sasuke grinned back and said, "Then how about if Naruto and I used teamwork?" Then, Kakashi had to duck to avoid Naruto's scythe, but he walked straight into Sasuke's waiting kick, sending him flying back. However, Naruto disappeared and reappeared right behind him, using his gunbai to slam Kakashi into the air before forming a Rasengan in his hand and leaping up to slam Kakashi with it. Kakashi substituted a log for Rasengan, but was actually staring directly into Sasuke's activated Sharingan. Megan. Narakumi no Jutsu. Kakashi's world, and he placed his hand in Rin's chest as it recovered. "Kakashi," gasped Rin, pulling his hand away from Rin's chest. Kakashi did so. Kai. Rin's image disappeared, and Naruto immediately rushed into Kakashi, punching and kicking him. Naruto and Sasuke then used ninja wire to restrain Kakashi, and they took the bells from him. Dangling the bells before him, Sasuke uttered the words, "You lost, Kakashi." After giving Naruto a quick glance, Sasuke threw him a bell. "Now we both pass, Naruto." With seriousness, Kakashi remarked, "But Sakura fails." Then there was a scream, and Naruto and Sasuke turned to see Kurenai standing over Sakura. "This test isn't over yet, Kakashi." Kakashi yelled, "Kurenai, what is the meaning of this?" Holding Sakura by the throat, Kurenai remarked, "Now boys, listen to me carefully." Sasuke and Naruto exchanged glances before hurling the bells at Kakashi, saying, "I'll kill Sakura if you don't give those bells back to Kakashi and let him go." "We may hate her for her antics towards Sasuke, but we're not going to abandon her," said Naruto. Sasuke said, "That's right, Naruto, it's all for one and one for all." He and Naruto then turned to face Kakashi. Naruto and Sasuke both exclaimed, "We won't abandon our comrades," at the same time. With even tone, Kakashi asked, "So that's your final answer?" With resolute expressions on their faces, Naruto and Sasuke nodded for dramatic effect. Kakashi paused before saying, "Well, in that case you guys pass." "Yada!" exclaimed Naruto and Sasuke as they gave each other high fives. "Our plan worked, thanks Kurenai-sensei." "Wait, plan? Yeah, we knew about your ideology from the very beginning, so we hired Kurenai for a LOQB rank mission on the account of Kurenai's target was Sakura, since one of her jobs was to beat the fangirl out of Sakura. However, I think she went overboard. What did you show her?" replied Naruto. Kurenai answered, "The truth, that is. What happens to Kunoichi, who are too weak?" Kurenai rubbed the back of her head and said, "She was too weak to help you, so I showed her what would happen if the three of you were captured. She might need a few weeks of recovery." Kakashi glanced at Kurenai and then at the unconscious Sakura, saying, "Well, you still pass anyway. Do what you have to do to break Sakura's fangirl, but make sure she's still able for active duty no later than 3 weeks. In the meantime, Naruto used a hanged shadow clone so we can still do missions." Naruto exclaimed, "Hi Kakashi-sensei, instead. Now I've got to report to Lord Hokage. Do you have as well, Kurenai?" Following her statement, Kurenai and Kakashi shunshined to the Hokage's office. "Yeah, I do." After about 3 seconds, Saratobi's office. The Chunin sensei should be arriving any second now, even Kakashi. Sarutobi thought as he filled out a few more pieces of paper. Then he saw one that said. Sarutobi sighed and said, "Petition to have Naruto Uzumaki transferred to Route Sarutobi stamped the denied square and placed it in his smaller pile of finished paperwork. Seriously, Danzo, you'll have to do better than that, but now I'll have to read everything over more carefully. I hate you so much, Danzo, denied. At that moment, the Chunin Shunshin entered, shocking everyone, including Kakashi. Sarutobi's expression became serious as he said, Kakashi's on time, that's a shock, report. With a shamed expression, one Chunin remarks, Team 1, failed and horribly at that. A female Chunin, looking ashamed, says, Team 2, failed, these fangirls are a disgrace to Kunoichi everywhere. According to a third Chunin, Team 3, failed. The fourth Chunin declares, Team 4, failed. The fifth Chunin declares, Team 5 failed, the sixth step forward. The sixth Chunin declares, Team 6 failed. Kakashi declared, Team 7 passed. Kurenai received an accusing glare from Kakashi, who said, they tricked me into passing them using Kurenai here. Kurenai proudly remarked, Team 8 did fantastically, they're a well-oiled machine. Sarutobi looked at his son and asked, all right, and Team 10? They passed, they're just like their parents, according to Asuma. All right, have Teams 7, 8 and 10 gather at 10 a.m. tomorrow for missions. Everyone else is dismissed. Sarutobi grinned to himself as the Chunin Shunshin left the room, saying, Hi Hokage-sama. After Kakashi passed his team, the days that followed were mostly uneventful. Despite his desire to gripe about the D-rank missions, Naruto decided it would be best to swallow his pride and earn some D ranks. In addition, his mother reprimanded him to put up with it while Sakura recovered in the hospital. Sakura eventually returned after 19 missions. Additionally, it arrived in time for their subsequent mission. Okay team, what's your status? And 20 to the target. Naruto reporting a visual contact with the target 4 meters from my location. Sasuke reporting same thing, roughly same distance from my location. Sakura reporting I got eyes on target along with a general idea where the rest of the squad is at 4-5 meters. Okay squad, we jump the target on my mark, now. The squad rushed the target almost immediately. Naruto's touching hand was unavoidable, but the target in question managed to avoid their grasping hands. Just as the target had reached the arc in its jump, Naruto was able to mark his leg, causing his paws to become bound by a pair of hands, causing its motion to go flat. Speaking into the communication device, Sakura stated, squad reporting a confirmed ID on target. Tora is in our custody. The words, nice job Naruto, came from Sasuke. Sasuke was told, thanks, by Naruto. However, their success was fleeting, leading some to believe Tora was tamed. Due to Tora's attempt to remove Naruto's face despite having his face clawed, Sasuke was able to assist Naruto in subduing Tora. Mission complete Kakashi-sensei. Oh, and one other thing from both Naruto and myself, said Sasuke into a wire. AOW. Sasuke and Naruto screamed into the wire, causing Kakashi's ears to get seriously damaged. Inside the head of Naruto recalling the agony, Minato remarked, I still remember the scratches that insipid feline did to my face. As her husband gave her a hug, Kushina remarked, oddly enough, I was lucky. Looking back at earlier, Hashirama said, is that cat F-possessed? Madara stated, it wouldn't go too far to say so. Compared to what my sister Matabi did to me when I walked in on her, she was bathing in her human form. What that cat did to Naruto was nothing. Their newly perverted roommate caught the attention of the other 4. Kurama said, believe me, it's better you don't know the details, with a cartoon sweat drop. Later at the mission desks of the Hokage, Lady Shijimi expressed her gratitude to the Kakashi team for bringing Tora back. I'm especially glad to have Tora back in her arms. 2 sadistic grins from Naruto and Sasuke were visible as she crushed Tora. Sakura, on the other hand, was, no wonder he ran away. Hiruzen looked at a piece of paper and said, okay, for Squad 7's next mission, we have a wide array of missions to choose from, babysitting the chief counselor's 3-year-old. Minato uttered the word, sure, from inside Naruto's head. Helping out said counselor's wife with the shopping. Hashirama uttered the word, chores, with a popped vein. Digging up potatoes, Madara said, twitching angrily inside Naruto's head, you have to be kidding me that this is what peacetime has reduced shinobi to. Naruto shocked everyone by yelling, Lord Third, with all due respect, you are out of your perverted mind if you think I'm doing those excuses for missions. After, with all due respect. And I am well aware of the ninja ranking system as well as the mission system. My uncle pretty much told me what you're thinking about telling me now. I'll continue my honesty with me saying D-rank missions are jokes guised as missions. If you expect genin like us to get better, we need C ranks to better ourselves, because a ninja that lacks combat skills of any kind is less than useless. And has it ever once occurred to you or anyone on the council that you could have academy students doing these D-rank assignments instead of shoving all them onto S genin? As per what the money would be used for, it can upgrade the academy's facilities for the better, in addition to getting the academy students a lot more serious to commit to studies. Hiruzen said, obviously impressed. You continue to surprise me, Naruto. Your argument is superb in the points you made. Well, if I plan to be Hokage in the future, I got to be in it to win. When it comes to making arguments and seeing if other arguments are any good. And don't worry, since my uncle is clan head of Namikaze, and Sasuke's mom is clan head for the Uchiha, we made this argument to them and they're open to the idea. This can't be the same goofball that I went to the academy with, Sakura said, watching in complete astonishment. Iruka, I believe they earned their right for a C-rank mission, wouldn't you agree? With concern, Iruka remarked, I don't know, Lord Third. Let me at that C rank, I'm ready for it. Sasuke remarked, so am I. I guess I am outvoted, was the statement of a defeated and outnumbered Sakura. Very well, Team 7's 1C rank for protection and VIP escort from the Land of Waves. And who, pray tell, is this VIP from the Land of Waves? He is a carpenter on his way home from staying here in the village. We will send him in. The drunken man was snatched away by a kunai, which trimmed off a few strands of hair as it flew past his head. Great. I ask for shinobi and I get a bunch of, he said. Only insult a shinobi if you wish to die, Naruto declared with a commanding demeanor. Kakashi gave Naruto a gentle pat on the head and remarked, that's the client, Naruto. Naruto rubbed his head and said, oh please, sensei, that kunai hardly touched him. Tazuna, who now sounds a little more sober, said, I am Tazuna, an ace in the art of bridge building in my country, the Land of Waves, and I expect you to get me home safely, even at the cost of your lives. Minato's eye twitched as she said, he's laying it on a little think, isn't he? Kushina remarked, oh, he's definitely hiding something. At the gate, the client and Team 7 were at the gate. Naruto's excitement was heightened by the knowledge that, thanks to their new C rank, he would finally be able to see a portion of the world that he would never see in the village. Sakura asked, what are you so excited about? I figured it'd be obvious since this is our first out-of-village mission, and I've never left the village before now. Tazuna complained, I still can't believe I have to trust my life to this runt. While pointing to Naruto, Kakashi told Tazuna, don't worry about it because I'll protect you as well as Jonin in charge of these genin, but I wouldn't be so quick to doubt that kid's skills, and I wouldn't doubt him, Kakashi added, pointing to Sasuke. At last, Naruto had become calm enough to recognize two adversaries. Kushina remarked, Naruto, you sense that, yeah, hidden missed Chunin by the feel of their chakra despite them suppressing their chakra. Which begs the question, what is said Chunin doing here of all places, said Hashirama. A good question, bet you could take him out in a heartbeat. I could, Kurama, but then I'd learn nothing in my doing so. Hashirama remarked, I guess you'll leave them alone. Yep, and that's pretty much all I can do without blowing the secret pertaining to you. I know your sensei said not to doubt you, but I'm still a skeptic and I won't believe for a second you becoming Hokage is possible. Talk is cheap, Tazuna. Action speaks volumes more than mere words ever could. Keep your skepticism in time, I'll smash it apart like fine china. So sensei, are we gonna stand around all day or are we gonna get going? I was figuring of a formation to optimize Tazuna's protection. Figure this, I take point, you and Sakura flank Tazuna on his 4 and 8 o'clock and Sasuke brings up the rear. Okay, let's do that. Start of mission. The mission was mainly uneventful from the moment they left the village because they were talking about ninjas, the countries that some of them live in, and the cage at the end of their conversation. They brought Hiruzen, who Sakura, Sasuke, and Naruto thought was unimpressive. However, Naruto shares the information his father gave him with his teammate because Minato told his son about Hiruzen's past. Naruto sensed that the Chunin from earlier had moved ahead of them while the others, Sakura and Kakashi, were conversing, but they were briefly out of range. Naruto didn't notice until they crossed a bridge. A puddle on a dry day in a place that hasn't had rain in more than a week, Naruto thought to himself. That's an ambush if I ever seen one waiting to happen, said Madara. The others concurred as they said, here, here. Naruto, I project since they see you, Sasuke and Sakura as easy pickings, they'll go after Kakashi first. I figured as much until they make their move, we play this skirmish by ear. Kakashi interrupted Naruto's thoughts. He glanced over and saw that he was chained. He scurried to see the two missed Chunin tugging the chain. Naruto gets a fleeting glimpse of the substitution logs where Kakashi was standing as they are free. He looked back at Sasuke as he pinned the Chunin's chain to a nearby tree with a shuriken and kunai. "Sasuke, roundhouse double or nothing, take left." As he hurried to the Chunin on the left, he said, "Got it." Both Naruto and Sasuke gave the trapped shinobi's cheeks a as in face, a solid roundhouse kick as he emerged on the right. The shinobi were released from the chain that bound them by the force of the kick. And as were rushing toward Tazuna Sakura, she moved ahead of them and prepared. In front of them, Naruto and Sasuke flashed. The attacking shinobi was then captured in headlocks by Kakashi, who was believed to be dead, as if by a flash. From inside Naruto's head, a proud Minato exclaimed, "That's my student who did that." Tazuna sighed in relief as she thought, "Looks like I'm safe after all." "Hold on a minute, how are you still alive?" Sakura asked, glad that she wasn't sensei less but a little perplexed. "Replacement jutsu Sakura," Naruto said to her, indicating the log's Kakashi substitution. Sasuke said, "Duh," to a squirming Sakura. "You did well in your first ambush. Sakura, you put yourself in the way of the enemy and our client, knowing full well that there was nothing you could do about it. That's one step further down your shinobi path." Before turning to his prisoners, Kakashi remarked to Naruto and Sasuke, "That was yet another awesome display of teamwork I saw you two do. Now we're going to have a chat," he said. A minute later, they are interrogated, which is equivalent to 6 minutes of Kakashi questioning them without success, or Sharingan, 1 minute of Naruto-style interrogation in the Sharingan style, and 3 minutes of conversation. "I only know these Chunin from the Hidden Mist Village by their moniker, the Demon Brothers, and their unrelenting attack style. They never give up, no matter what. Our ambush, how do you know? A puddle gave you away, during a day where it hadn't rained in over a week. Then why leave it for the genin to fight? I could have taken them out quick, but I'd learned nothing by doing so. Same as me when I sensed them back at the village gate," said Naruto. He looked at 4 astonished faces, but the expressions on the faces of the Demon Brothers and Tazuna were even more precious. Naruto muttered, "Strong sensory skills, I'll tell y'all later. Tazuna, when you put your request in, the task was the standardized protection against thugs and highwaymen during transit, and while you finished building your bridge, you failed to mention any ninja that were hunting you down. We'd staff differently and it'd be a mid-B rank or higher. We understand that you had your reasons for lying, but it is unacceptable all the same. We're beyond the scope of the mission. Now we will proceed with the mission until we get you home. You've until then to explain yourself, and if I am unconvinced of your reason, our mission ends when we drop you off at the Land of Waves." Cut to the leaf that his hidden Team 8 was heading home after concluding yet another D-Ranks day. Neji was leaving his duties to the clan when Hinata entered her home. Neji, who was obviously not pleased to see her, stated, "Lord Hiyashi needs to speak to you in his office." He seemed rather pleased about something. After hearing this, Hinata went to her father's office and knocked on the door. "Come in." When she walks in, Mikeru, Naruto's uncle, is seated in a different chair in addition to her father, who is seated at his desk. "Have a seat, Hinata." Hinata obeyed. Hiyashi threw a picture of Naruto to Hinata and said, "I've noticed that a boy has eyes for you, and based on what I've heard, you have eyes for him too. It's this boy." Hinata was looking at the picture when she heard Hiyashi speak once more. Hinata gestures to Mikeru, who hands her another picture. "Normally, I wouldn't want to hear about you being with this boy, but it wasn't until Mikeru here showed me something. The 4th Hokage was the owner." Now Hinata look at that picture, then at Naruto's picture, and lastly look at both side by side. After following instructions, Hinata's expression changed to one of surprise when she saw Naruto's photos. She quickly looked at the 2 photos in her hand side by side, and it would be an understatement to say that she was shocked. The 4th Hokage's son. I'm crushing on the 4th Hokage's son. She fainted as she was processing her thoughts, her face flushed, and Mikeru and Hiyashi laughed at her antics. Cut to a different location. "Failed? What do you mean failed? I paid big buck for you hotshot assassins and this is what you give me." A man sitting on the couch, swinging a sword the length of his one-handed Shinken grip, said, "Quiet, you're winning. This time I shall go personally, and this blade you're staring down will be the last thing they see. Tazuna has a high-level shinobi guarding him. It'll take someone of advanced skills to deal with him. Who do you think you're dealing with? I'm not called Zabuza Momochi, demon of the hidden mist, for nothing," replied Zabuza. Returning to Team 7, they were traveling to the Land of Waves in a boat. Tazuna would reveal the reality of his deceit. He was working on a bridge when they noticed it. The reason for my deception was born from a short man who casts a long nasty shadow. With curiosity, Kakashi uttered, a long shadow. Yes, I believe you know him, or at least of him. His name is Gato. As in Gato Transport Co., who wouldn't know about one of the wealthiest men in the world? Minato said, I hear that, from inside Naruto's head. Gato's a powerful tycoon from a famed business, true enough, but beneath all that are ruthless methods of taking over countries, nations and governments through the selling of drugs and contraband. This began approximately a year ago, when he set his sights on my home, the land of waves. In less than a month his vast wealth seized control of our country's logistics, coming and going from the country. Anybody who was stupid enough to stand in his way simply disappeared. Sakura's tiniest swallow was audible. Who could blame her? Kushina asked from inside Naruto's head. If you control the seas in an island nation like the land of waves, you've effectively taken over the entire country, including the government, the people's lives, the economy, and everything else. Now things are making sense. You're the only one standing in his way, meaning if you're gone the bridge goes too. I get it, he's dangerous. You still didn't answer the question of, why did you hide that from us? Because the land of waves was a prosperous nation. Now it is impoverished, even our nobles have little money. Naruto noticed an expression in Tazuna's eye that suggested a guilt trip. Save the guilt trip, old man, because I say we continue the mission, because while the mission took a turn for the worst, our feudal lord would jump at the chance to able to trade with the land of waves, so he'd gladly give you a long enough extension to pay us for the mission, and even though it is remotely unlikely Gato will show himself, we can easily take the satisfaction of breaking his siege, said Naruto. I agree with Naruto, and plus come mission's end we can go home with some official combat experience, said Sasuke. I'm agreeing because I would be damned if I turned a blind eye to the land of waves, said Sakura. Naruto and Sasuke uttered the words, plus you being outnumbered by present Genin Company, simultaneously while Sakura sulked. Kakashi just looked at his team. Well, I guess my squad speaks for me as well. They created landfall in the land of waves shortly after this. And 4 of the 5 members of the current company felt as though they were being watched as they were walking to Tazuna's house. Naruto said, this feeling, as he used his Sharingan to scan the surroundings and was on point when he noticed a chakra signature in some nearby bushes. In an instant, he deactivated his Sharingan, took out a shuriken, and hurled it at the bush. Naruto heard a thunk in the tree a few seconds after he had deployed the shuriken. He went to check if he had hit the chakra signature, but instead he discovered a snowshoe hare that was out of season for the summer. A.N. Snowshoe hares are brown in the summer and white in the winter, for those who are unaware, or who choose to ignore this. Scared a substitution. Naruto, you idiot, you scared us half to death, Sakura said. With some resentment toward Sakura's actions and lack of shinobi ability to see past deceit, Sasuke remarked, Sakura, you're the idiot here. Take a look at what that is. Take a look at the season, and then take a look at what's out here. Sakura followed directions. I see the problem. In the meantime, from a tree Zabuza grasps his sword on his back and says, now I understand the Demon Brothers' failure in their mission. That's the copy ninja from the Hidden Leaf. Kakashi of the Sharingan Eye. According to Kakashi, everybody hit the deck. A spinning sword was thrown at them, but everyone managed to avoid getting hurt. As he looked at a Zabuza standing on the handle of the sword that was now embedded in the tree, Kakashi thought, that's got to be. Inside Naruto's head, Minato said, that's Zabuza Momochi on that sword. A Rouge ninja from the Hidden Mist village. Sensei, isn't that Zabuza Momochi Rouge ninja from the Hidden Mist? Naruto, how do you know him? From a bingo book that was tossed into a trash can. The compliment, good cover, from Minato. Sasuke grabbed hold of Naruto while he employed the shadow clone jutsu, saying, Sasuke, stack up. They gave the clones instructions to form a manji with Sakura. Sensei, me and Sasuke are on your flanks. Kakashi revealed his Sharingan eye and remarked, good, I might need it. Before Zabuza, the 3 are prepared. As he removed his headband to reveal a Sharingan eye, Kakashi asked Naruto and Sasuke, if all of us are facing him, how are we gonna go about doing this? Naruto pulled out 6 bracelet sets and said, we could field test my uncle's latest invention, which employs a combination of the concept of the substitution and the Hiraishin. To work the bracelets, we agitate the seal on the bracelets and the next person agitates his and the bracelet switches. Naruto clarifies. Ought to face the Sharingan eye, I'm honored, is said by Zabuza just as the 3 turn to face him. Sakura can be heard uttering, Sharingan. The Sasuke clone told Sakura, the Sharingan is what makes the Uchiha clan special. Sakura heard Naruto's clone say, and Kakashi just so happens to have a Sharingan implant in his left eye. Let's get this started. Sasuke, Naruto, and Kakashi versus Zabuza. Zabuza is engaged in a stare-down with the three fighters. With his sword drawn, Zabuza declared, "I say it is time to get things started," and leapt to a nearby lake. Madara remarked, "That guy is gathering a lot of chakra." Hashirama said, "Naruto, stay vigilant. Ninja art hidden mist jutsu." The mist grew thicker until it was visible for 1/3 of a kilometer. "Naruto, you should be alright if you use your Sharingan," Madara remarked. "And if it's discovered," Naruto told Madara, worried about being found out. "Then you'll probably tell your teammates later," Minato remarked. At that moment, Naruto declared as he activated his 3-tomo Sharingan. A voice emerged from the mist, projected to sound from every direction, as Naruto and company scanned their surroundings. 8 points. At first, Sakura is a little alarmed as she tries to figure out, what was that? Larynx, lungs, liver, spine, jugular, subclavian artery, kidneys, heart. Evidently unimpressed, Minato remarked, "And this guy is a master assassin." Madara remarked, "He's missed 17 other ways that would kill a person instantly." "Well, I'll let him know that, hey dipshit, you missed 17 other ways you could administer a kill blow. Naruto's right Zabuza and you call yourself assassin." There was only a growl and no spoken words. Kakashi created some wind in anticipation of Zabuza's next move, which successfully blew the mist away. Naruto then noticed some tension coming from Sasuke rather than Kakashi and Zabuza. He looked over at a shaky Sasuke. Madara remarked, "What a bad kid, he's getting first-timer jitters after his first high-stakes battle." "Alright, I'll win him over," Naruto said. Naruto turns to Sakura and Sasuke's clone, who both say similar things to calm him down, and says, "Steady Sasuke, we'll get through this." After seeing what Naruto had seen, Kushina remarked, "Well, at least she's starting down the path that is being a kunoichi." When Zabuza appeared directly in the center of the Manji formation made up of Sakura, Naruto, and Sasuke's clone, the calm there was short-lived. When Naruto and Sasuke tackled the client to the ground, Kakashi was the first to respond and impaled Zabuza. They activated the clones, who subsequently dissipated. Zabuza was bleeding water for a few seconds before it was discovered that the impaled Zabuza was a water clone or substitution. After that, Zabuza found that Kakashi had used the same trick that he had used to split Kakashi in two. Then, behind him, Kakashi emerges with a kunai, gotcha, held very near to his neck. "Oh," the Zabuza in front of him said, "it appears that I have you." Sakura uttered, "Sensei behind you." Soon after a slice had escaped him, Zabuza kicked him, sending Kakashi hurtling through the air. Minato remarked, "Kakashi, you've become lazy, I'll need to talk to him later." Kakashi was in a water prison jutsu. Sasuke remarked, "This isn't good," while Naruto stared at him. "As skilled as we are, even I have doubts if we can take him down." As he approached Sasuke, Naruto remarked, "That might be Sasuke, but Zabuza is arrogant that we won't be a match for him, but we may not need to take him head on." "How do you mean?" Notice how he maintains that water prison keeping Kakashi in check. Sasuke glanced at what Naruto was discussing and said, "Oh, I see. I will not attend the history lesson on Zabuza." When the two fighters rushed, Sasuke hung back and Naruto took aim with his clone's sword drawn. The two battled for a minute before Naruto was flung backwards by the Zabuza's water clone. Naruto pulled a demon wind shuriken from his bag and threw it back to Sasuke while he was flying. He performed a series of hand signals known as Shuriken Shadow Clone Jutsu, as Sasuke spun around and launched the shuriken, saying, "Now is a good time to field test this." The demon wind shuriken appeared to be 10. 9 of them destroyed a Zabuza clone, and the final one targeted the original Zabuza, holding Kakashi hostage. After catching the first one, he quickly learned about Shadow Shuriken Jutsu. It was obvious that Zabuza would be struck because his hands were full. However, Zabuza dodged and kept the water prison jutsu intact. When Zabuza realized that the shuriken he had avoided was actually a transformation that sent a kunai straight at his arm, he realized that had been a mistake. Zabuza had to decide between letting the knife strike him and letting go due to the pain. Or release Kakashi. Since neither option was particularly appealing, he chose the one he thought was better than the other, which was to let Kakashi. He attempted to shoot Naruto with his now captured demon wind shuriken. However, when he heard the clang, he turned to see Kakashi using the metal on his gloves to block one of the blades. And Naruto returned to his teammate in a flash. "Naruto, should we back him up?" Naruto turned to face the battle and remarked, "Nah, we'd get in the way besides, he looks to want to get payback. This time, I'll be writing Naruto's perspective on the fight instead of the bout." Naruto I raised us half a meter by casting an Earth-style mobile core. Zabuza and Kakashi-sensei were throwing water dragons at one another. As the water dragon clashed, Hashirama remarked, "The Sharingan at its finest." As the warriors clashed steel, Madara smirked and said, "How true." When it became apparent that Zabuza had reached a standstill, he paused to think of other strategies. "It appears that Zabuza will attempt to devise a plan," Minato remarked as their impasse deepened. As Kakashi mimicked his actions, Kushina remarked, "Not that will do him much good." In addition to the usual mimicking, Kakashi complimented me on some mind-reading parlor tricks. Because of Kakashi's antics, Zabuza was beginning to lose it emotionally then. He saw something that made him feel like he was fighting himself as an illusion. "I think Kakashi will win this battle by checkmate," Naruto said in his head as he uttered the word HNN out loud. Furthermore, Kakashi replicated a jutsu from Zabuza's arsenal, proving Naruto correct. Water-style giant vortex jutsu. A jutsu of his origin soon swept Zabuza away, causing him to be slammed and pinned into a tree. "This is the end," was said just as Kakashi was ready to deliver the final blow. Two senbon nails Zabuza in the neck as if suddenly. "You're right, this was the end. Naruto appears to have friends here, and based on that mask, he appears to be from the Mist's tracker unit." After checking his vitals, Kakashi concluded, "There's no question he's gone." He described how he was told to deal with Zabuza as he flickered down to him. When the masked man reached down and raised Zabuza's body, Naruto knew in his head. As if recalling something, Minato told Naruto, "There's something wrong with Naruto. Tracker ninja are supposed to deal with corpses on the spot." Naruto told his father in his head, "I think Uncle Mikeru had something to do with that knowledge." Minato smiled as he thought, naturally, they shift their attention to Kakashi's collapse. Recalling his history with the Sharingan among his clansmen, Madara remarked, "Backlash from Sharingan use is a common case in the Uchiha and usually bounce back after a night of rest, but I postulate that since Kakashi isn't of Uchiha blood, it'll keep him down for at most a week." While examining Kakashi visually, Naruto stated, "He'll be fine, he just needs rest." Next, Naruto looks at Sakura. Naruto called her Sakura, and threw a kit and a book from his bag at her. "Field medic kit and an operator's manual. Get familiar, there's a chapter on Sharingan backlash. Sasuke, I'm gonna need you on point. Old man Tazuna, while I carry sensei to your house, I need you to directly give Sasuke directions to your house while I follow you. After all, we've still a bridge to get you to, don't we?" Tazuna replied, "Yeah, Sakura, you'll bring up the rear." Cut to the home of Tazuna. A day or so later, Kakashi came back to and almost leapt to his feet. Naruto restrained Kakashi to a slow pace by saying, Whoa, slowly, sensei. "We're at the client's house. We treated what wounds you sustained and you were resting the entire time," said Sakura. "I see," Kakashi uttered while looking around him. There was silence in the air. "There's been something bugging me." Sakura remarked, "How do you mean, sensei? That boy, there's something about the way he behaved didn't seem right to me." "So you noticed it to sensei, as I had as well?" "Huh," said Kakashi, "it seems we've been had. That tracker ninja was in cahoots with Zabuza. He saved his hide by firing senbon needles at the pressure points in the neck designed to put him into a death-like state, which is a simple task for those who receive training from the tracker unit, those with an innate knowledge of the human body, those with a good medical background, and so on," Naruto clarified. Tazuna remarked sarcastically, "Oh great, out of the frying pan and into the fire." Kakashi sighed and remarked, "Well, I guess it can't be helped." "Well, if Zabuza's back and will still be gunning for Tazuna, how are we gonna be able to get the upper hand if you're in the condition you're in?" Sakura replied. Kakashi grinned as he remarked, "And the beauty of downtime on a mission is most radiant." Naruto remarked, "It means we train to make up for you." "Not 100% exact, since you'll also be doing it for yourselves, but all in all you're right," stated Kakashi. As Naruto, Sasuke, and Sakura descended from their room through the kitchen, they noticed an odd photograph of Tazuna. Tsunami saw that Naruto and his companions were examining the image. She clarified that the original image featured 4 family members. After explaining why Naruto, Sasuke, and Sakura only see 3 instead of 4, Tazuna spent the majority of the evening narrating how Kaiza Tsunami's late husband arrived in the Land of Waves and, after having a profound influence on Inari's life, transformed him from a shy little cub to a cheerful child who was rarely seen without a smile, eventually becoming a hero who taught the Land of Waves the meaning of the word courage. Cut to the forest. Squad 7 was standing in the woods. As his tenants nod, Naruto thought in his head, I think now would be as good a time as any to read them in. Naruto said, Sensei, before we start, I would like to tell you Sasuke and Sakura my whole secret. You sure? Kakashi asked, astonished by how abrupt Naruto's action was. Quite, a leap of faith is needed for dependable friends. The trust comes later, Naruto recollected Itachi telling him as he turned to face his teammates. Let me start by asking what you know of the Nine Tails attack. Well, it appeared as though out of nowhere, the Leaf Village held it off and Lord Fourth defeated it. To put the story simply, Sasuke replied. You are right, that is the case in what Lord Third wanted you to know. But this secret I'm reading you into is well beyond any of your pay grades. The Nine Tails still lives. How could that be? Sakura uttered. Come on Sakura, it's practically the first rule of energy. Chakra is energy and the Nine Tails is brimming with chakra. Do you honestly think that Lord Fourth Hokage could destroy all that energy? Sakura uttered. Well, no, energy cannot be destroyed, only changed into something else. Where in the situation that Lord Fourth was in, seal it into something. You mean? Naruto nodded as he molded chakra and took off his shirt and flesh net undershirt. As the sealing formula materialized on his stomach, Naruto remarked, Kakashi-sensei, I think you can explain this part. Right, Naruto is the jinchuriki of the Nine Tails. Sasuke gazed at Naruto with a mixture of surprise and perplexity. What is a jinchuriki, you're probably gonna ask? It essentially means, power of human sacrifice. Since the formation of the great ninja villages, humans were selected to be vessels for the tailed beasts. When the tailed beasts were sealed into humans, they become jinchuriki. By doing so they become a powerful weapon for their respective village. But by becoming a jinchuriki you are treated differently to the point where one feels ostracized from the village they're supposed to be a part of. As if addressing Sakura, Kakashi remarked, which I'm pretty certain you would know nothing about. Sakura turned her head and remained silent as he flashed back to the hospital. Sasuke remarked, I had a pretty good idea on that part since Naruto pretty much told me shortly after my family was massacred. And there's a lot more to it than just Kurama. Sakura and Sasuke both said, Kurama, at the same time in a perplexed tone. With a vein exposed in frustration, Naruto uttered, that's the Nine Tails' real name. Moving on, Kurama is not the only one who calls my body home, Naruto says. Sakura and Sasuke's eyes enlarged slightly. And you were about to meet the four of them I'll start with. For those well-versed in Leaf Village history, a pair of individuals that need no introductions, Naruto said while making the clone sign. Soulless shadow clone jutsu. As soon as the smoke cleared, two clouds poofed. Sakura, Sasuke, and Kakashi-sensei meet. Kakashi and Sasuke both said, Madara Uchiha, at the same time. Sakura declared, Hashirama Senju the first Hokage. Hashirama and Madara both said, better known as the co-founders of the Hidden Leaf Village, at the same time. Returning to the clone hand sign, Naruto stated, and the next pair I plan to introduce. Madara and Hashirama relocated elsewhere, soulless shadow clone jutsu. As before, two clouds materialized, and two new figures emerged as the dust settled. Kakashi-sensei, since you already know these two I'll skip you. Sasuke, Sakura, I want you two to meet my parents. Naruto pointed to the redhead and said, Kushina Uzumaki, my mother. Kushina looked at Sakura and Sasuke and said, hello, it's a pleasure meeting Naruto's friends and teammates, Titibane. Sakura recalled the last time she heard, Titibane, and remarked, what a minute. Yes Sakura, that was my mom who blocked your haymaker. Naruto pointed to his father as he said, and Minato Namikaze. Better known as, Naruto said, gesturing to his father to reveal the back of his Haori coat. Minato referred to the kanji on his Haori coat as, the fourth Hokage, and pointed with his thumbs. Kakashi thought to him, well, that would explain the hair and the verbal quirks. Initially I thought you an orphan, but from the way you speak about your parents, is evidence of another thing we have in common. Despite the actions our fathers have taken, there are parts of them we can't help but respect, Sasuke joked. Yeah, I suppose you're right, Naruto said, grinning and closing his eyes before turning to face his. I guess I can never look at you the same way again, Naruto, said Sakura. Whether or not you know of my origins is irrelevant, I'm still the same Naruto, Titibane. Well, now that you know the truth about me, if we're to stand a fighting chance against Zabuza, some are gonna need to train so much in chakra control to the point where it is second nature. Naruto, since I've seen you and Sasuke walk on water. Actually, Sensei, I volunteer for first shift in guarding Tazuna. You're going back to the house to heal some more. Sasuke, you're a Uchiha and we'll need your Sharingan. It's embarrassing for me to admit I haven't been able to activate it yet. Madara told Sasuke, that is why I will be training you personally. Evidently thrilled by the idea, Sasuke uttered, me being trained by one of the Uchiha greats, fuck yeah, I'm in. And Kakashi, when you're well enough I'll be teaching you a few new tricks in exchange for a few of yours. The words, all right, sounds great, were spoken by Kakashi. Sakura, while you've shown great potential as a kunoichi, but you've still a ways to go. Kushina told Sakura, that's why Hashirama and I will be training you. Then, after making roughly 1,000, give or take, Squad 7 minus Naruto went to train Naruto. For Perimeter 4, he initially sent a platoon of roughly 20 clones, 16 of whom watched the entrance while he and 2 additional clones helped with some heavy lifting. While searching the city, the remaining clones and Minato, dressed in an Enbu outfit, were told to work in pairs to monitor chatter and, if feasible, keep an eye on locations where Gado's thugs were spotted. Given that Naruto was busy protecting Tazuna in order to keep himself occupied, Madara first activated Sasuke's Sharingan. Then, through the tree climbing exercise, Sasuke's chakra control improved almost immediately. Madara then proceeded to teach him one of his signature jutsu techniques, Great Fire Annihilation and Great Fire Destruction. Before long, Sasuke's Sharingan was at 3 tomos. Madara felt that Sasuke's taijutsu needed some refinement, so that offense was a non-issue, so he taught him a few tricks that helped him fool his opponent into charging him, which proved to be quite simple. And according to Kakashi, he learned the lightning blade in return for teaching Great Fire Annihilation. At first, he was hesitant, but after Madara persuaded him that he wanted to teach it to Naruto later, he agreed. After Sakura successfully climbed 3 trees, Hashirama moved on to teach her basic medical ninjutsu and finished her training by teaching her how to perform the healing, diagnostic jutsu. After that, she worked on improving her physical condition, specifically her taijutsu, and advanced to the point where she could easily defeat a thug and defeat a Chunin. Kushina then went to work honing her taijutsu to the point where she could defeat a Chunin, delay a Jonin in taijutsu for a short while, and teach her some sealing jutsu, specifically storage seals. And soon it was almost time to call it a day when Naruto returns. He sees his exhausted teammates seated at the table. Damn Naruto, your mother is a slave driver, a visibly worn out Sakura uttered. Kushina remarked, oh come on, it wasn't that bad, as if Sakura were exaggerating the situation. Hashirama attempted to explain how hard Sakura had worked by saying, said the Uzumaki who might as well have. Kushina snapped at Hashirama and asked, what was that? Hashirama uttered, nothing, while sporting a cartoon sweat drop. Kushina followed suit after Hashirama was dispelled. Naruto looked over at Sasuke, so how'd your training go? Sasuke grinned and said, awesome, I'm feeling even stronger than I was before, and man, do I have a surprise for you. Naruto remarked, I'm sure I'll be surprised to see it. With a serious expression, Naruto said to Kakashi, Sensei, I'll need a word with you. It seemed like he had found something significant. With little notice, Inari arose and interrupted the two, telling Naruto, Bull, how pointless their attempts to defeat Gato would be, how much training would not change anything, and how sickening their optimistic outlooks were. In one way, Inari, you are right if you were talking to ordinary people with nothing special about them, but we're not ordinary, we're ninja and we aspire to be the best, and as to be beaten by the likes of Gato just doesn't sit well with us, and even though the odds, as you say, are stacked against us, our fighting soul will create miracles, Naruto said with a proud tone. Naruto uttered the words, however, miracles from what I've experienced don't occur to crybabies like you little coward, with a suffocating civilian tone and a shinobi level of intimidation that was slightly lethal. Naruto said to Kakashi, Kakashi-sensei, walk with me, as he made his way to the door. Sakura, I recommend you go and get some shut-eye because you're on next watch tomorrow. Then, Naruto and Kakashi leave the room. Then Sasuke turns to face Inari, who was at last coming to, and he walked out the door with his head hung. Sakura was heading upstairs when Sasuke turned to see her, followed by Tsunami and Tazuna, who had also recovered their senses. After deciding it would be best to impart some wisdom to him, I followed Inari outside. I see Inari sitting on the dock's edge as I get out. May I join you? Sasuke asked. Inari merely nods. Sasuke told an Inari who was shocked that the boy who had essentially chewed him out had experienced such a thing. Naruto may be a bit of a hard ass at times, but despite his words he said to you earlier, he doesn't hate you, because similar to you he also grew up without either of his parents and had such a bad time of it he couldn't make one friend in our whole village. And as per being treated like dirto man he might as well have been our village's punching bag, it was that bad he nearly lost his life a fair amount of times. And like you I also know what it's like to lose someone you cared about and was powerless to stop the one responsible, but the point was since me and Naruto are brothers in the sense of knowing what it is like to suffer, we push each other as rivals so that we can achieve our dreams, and we learned the hard way that crying doesn't do jack, so we decided to make our lives better in a way we'll be proud of, Sasuke said as he got up. As he returned inside, Sasuke remarked, that was a lot to take in, but it's something to think about. A short distance from Tezuna's house, the scene shifts to the forest. Naruto made the clone sign and said, Dad wanted to tell you something he discovered during my watch and guard schedule. Soulless shadow clone jutsu. Then Minato showed up. Hey Dad, tell Kakashi-sensei what you told me. Minato turned to Kakashi and said, right Naruto, that Gato character is going to try and betray Zabuza and that kid. Kakashi remarked, you are sure of this sensei? Yes I am, said Minato. I heard it directly out of his mouth. They may be our enemies sensei, but we gotta try and save them, said Naruto. Putting his right hand to his chin to reflect, Kakashi remarked, you're right, and they deserve a little dignity of being able to go after their betrayer. The day after was more like yesterday, with Hashirama and Madara observing from the sidelines as Naruto and Sasuke engaged in a taijutsu duel. Even as they sparred, Minato was helping Kakashi figure out how to continue to improve. Minato was able to come up with something after defeating Kakashi with a resounding victory. And I decide to include an additional insert. Cut to Hidden Leaf Village, Hinata. After yet another exhausting day of missions, it was. On her way home, Hinata saw Uncle Mikeru of Naruto emerge from a store. She yelled, Mikeru-sensei. The Namikaze elder turned and said, Oh hey Hinata, what's up? With a bewildered tone, Hinata said, I've been meaning to ask you, sensei, but I never got the chance to. Why did you help me with my relation with Naruto? When Mikeru opened them with a smile, there was a pause between them as he considered something. I suppose for many reasons, but your mother is the main reason. My mother, Hinata uttered, initially taken aback. As he gave Hinata a Hiraishin kunai, Mikeru nodded and asked, can you meet me at the nearest park bench with this in your possession? Park bench. In just a few minutes, Mikeru arrived at Hinata's side after making a quick trip home to retrieve something. Mikeru handed a picture and said, get an eyeful of this. When Hinata took the picture from her, she saw 3 children with their sensei standing behind them. Mikeru pointed to a white-eyed brunette who looked adorable in Hinata's eyes and said, that's your mom right there. Mikeru pointed to another brunette and said, Makoto Uchiha, Sasuke's mother. Mikeru pointed to himself when he said, and the butt-ugly blonde you see there is me. Hinata remarked, what are you smoking? You look adorable, to Mikeru's blush of embarrassment. Since your father was stubborn to begin with, and the fact that he's the head of the Hyuga clan didn't help anything for you or for anyone else either. If your father to see things differently, a series of things needed to happen. First things was that he needed to think that it was his idea. And if things are to change in your clan, you're gonna need all the help you can muster, and with that help you make the clan elders see that the old way of doing things is wrong. Hinata is about to speak when Mikeru notices it. I know or have a good idea as per what you're about to say. Why wasn't your father included? When I was having lunch with him around the first week, your father was crying into some ramen we were having. The reason your father was crying was because he had no choice but to go along with the use of the cage bird seal as a method of keeping the branch family in line, because he has no other choice. If he was to refuse and have that seal branded on you, and you'd be used as leverage against him, or go along with it and you wouldn't be leverage. What Mikeru had told Hinata astounded her, and I distinctly recall your father saying something like, I wonder if Hinata will ever forgive me for not being a better clan head, and even more so to treating her the way I did, or something like that. Don't tell your father what I told you, and equally important was how your mother played into my decision to help you be with Naruto. Our Genin exam was a survival exercise of the 3 of us living together near a dangerous section of the woods. First 2 days in I was just about ready to quit, but your mother wouldn't let me. Outside my brother, she was the first person to encourage me not to give up. I owed her one, and since she's no longer with us, that debt fell to you. Hinata merely gave him a smile and cast a hopeful glance up at the sky. Returning to the wave land, it appeared as though it would be another day. Tezuna's day was about to take a drastic turn when he arrived at his bridge, which was expected to be finished in a few hours. When Tezuna, Kakashi, Sakura, and Sasuke arrived, they saw an initially unsettling scene. All of Tezuna's employees appeared to have been killed, but as they got closer, they saw no blood. Only knocked out, they were going to ask, and they had the answer. Zabuza, as we suspected, he was alive. Note what looks to be the hidden mist jutsu, Sasuke said. Right, Sasuke. I guess he couldn't wait for round 2. At the Tezuna house again after a long training session to hone his chakra control, Naruto had woken up and heard something while traveling to the bridge. He jumped when he saw a dead boar. Seems to have been killed by a sword, specifically a katana, Kushina noted. Furthermore, Madara stated, if you look at the surroundings, it appears that someone who obviously wants to be found has left cut marks on the trees. Naruto remarked, that direction is, I'm going to save them. Naruto then Hirai shined into position in time to witness Inari's first brave act, saying, it wouldn't be right if I didn't. As they prepared to use his mother as leverage against Tezuna, Inari was charging the samurai. And just as the samurai were ready to cut Inari to ribbons, Naruto used the Hiraishin leapfrog to flash both the Tsunami and Inari to safety. To put it another way, Naruto launched a Hiraishin kunai, snatched up Tsunami while the samurai were not looking, and then jumped to Inari again, removing him from the blades. Naruto told a startled Inari, thanks for the help, I needed a diversion to save your mom and you. You? Said one of Tezuna's thug samurai. He then turned to face a substitution log. As Naruto sent 2 shuriken, the other thug samurai said, you're one of the ninja Tezuna hired. The question, is that the best you got, was easily avoided. They were blind to the fact that the shuriken changed into katana-wielding Narutos, who proceeded to run the 2 thugs through. Naruto addressed the now dead samurai, saying, why yes it was. Occasionally a hero does show up fashionably late and you were awesome. Despite her limited speech, Inari managed to look down and say, I'm such a crybaby. Fui, revealed Naruto. Inari raised her head. Naruto smiled and remarked, there's nothing to be ashamed of, tears of joy. Inari was assisted by Naruto in carrying his mother inside the house. Naruto said, well, I'm off, as he hurried out the door. Returning to the bridge due to their confusion, Sasuke was able to outmaneuver Haku and send him flying back. And following a fight, Haku displayed a single talent, one-handed sign weaving. And right after this, Haku immediately revealed his second trick. Secret jutsu crystal ice mirrors, as if suddenly. As he activated his Sharingan, Sasuke remarked, this might be a problem. Sasuke managed to keep up despite his injuries, but now Haku was faster by the narrowest of margins. Kakashi and Zabuza were fighting during that time. Although Zabuza was ferocious and used the anti-Sharingan tactic of thinking in the fog, he wasn't making any progress quickly, especially since Kakashi was still exposing himself. And soon, the impasse was going to change once more. Naruto had reached Sasuke just in time to help him fight Haku. They used a combination of fire and wind that they had learned in training earlier in the week to successfully smash 2 mirrors. Haku, however, was not easily defeated. He stopped Naruto and Sasuke from exiting the dome and succeeded in knocking Naruto unconscious on the head, even though his tenants yelled at him to get up and move. Naruto was spared the death blow thanks to Sasuke's assistance. However, things were getting worse rather than better. Sasuke couldn't save Naruto again because he was too heavy. However, Naruto and Sasuke had hope. One thing was obvious. Haku was also getting close to her breaking point. The following moment would be crucial. Haku charged at Naruto without uttering a single word or thought. Haku was aiming for Naruto, and Sasuke saw it quickly. Sasuke forgot about the Senbon, but he was able to catch Haku in midair and hammer him. Before Naruto arrived, the atmosphere surrounding the fight was calm. Sasuke told him, about time you came to. Naruto gazed up at a scene that he would surely never forget. He witnessed Sasuke being so severely injured that he would essentially flatline at any moment. Sasuke, why? As you ad-lib Naruto's sentence, Sasuke uttered the feeble words, did I save your butt? Naruto gives him a nod. I guess for a lot of reasons, Sasuke said, closing his eyes, but the one that sticks out is that you've been like a brother I've always wanted, since you like me and understand what suffering is really like, and you know who I trained with, Sasuke said, mouthing Madara's name. You've the better chance of completing my vengeance against my brother, Sasuke said. So, you have to swear to me that you won't pass away here, As he falls, Sasuke says. Naruto heard his tenants attempting to soothe him. Normally, it would work, but his tenants' voices became indifferent because he was feeling angry. From now on, because I say so, Naruto will have the M's Eternal Mangekyo Sharingan. In summary, the powers that Naruto will eventually possess are Itachi, Shisui specifically, Koto Amatsukami, Obito, Kakashi, although Kakashi is currently unable to do so because Obito technically gave him his so, and finally Izanagi and Izanami, all in that general order. Saying in a demonic voice, "You're," pointing to one of the Haku reflections, think Ghost Rider Nicolas Cage dead. As he watched, Haku noticed that Naruto shared Sasuke's Sharingan, but the Sharingan he was staring at was different. Imagine a cross between Izuna's, Madara's, and Obito's Mangekyo Sharingan, for example. Haku quickly threw some Senbon after Naruto's most recent statement about a chakra rib cage, but it bounced off the ribs. And it shattered the crystal mirror as if it were made of glass with a swing of a now materialized arm. The other mirrors were essentially blasted away by the force from Naruto's chakra arm, but it also knocked Haku onto his butt and broke his mask. He saw a furious Naruto standing just inches from his head brandishing his katana. "What are you waiting for?" Naruto calmed down and lowered his katana, saying, "I finally regained my senses and normally I'd want nothing more than to end you, but then I'd be no different." Madara can't help but think of his own brother Izuna as Naruto speaks. Minato after looking into Haku's eyes via Naruto's. "I suppose you can chalk up a victory today, Naruto." Zabuza was not doing any better when Naruto finished his senseless beating of Haku. "Zabuza, you are an excellent swordsman, but your blade of choice is the reason why you're losing. Your executioner's blade, while an excellent blade to be killing with, and possess power with its mass, it is however a poor choice when faced with a more agile opponent. It is easy to predict the blade's line of attack, and after seeing it action twice I already know over multiple ways to render it useless." Zabuza simply growled because he didn't want to give Kakashi the satisfaction of being correct. A voice from the end of the bridge said, "It appears that the demons of the hidden mist are not much older than infants." "Gato, what are you doing here? He was never going to pay you," Naruto said, horizonting him, Sasuke, and Haku over to them. "I can better explain," he said. "That's right, you're too expensive when it is much cheaper to hire a bundle of thugs. It seems my reason to fight you, Kakashi, is no more, and I've no further reason to try to kill the bridge builder. And I figure it to be a good time to mention Sasuke's not dead," Haku said. "What?" said Naruto. He glanced quickly. Hashirama clarified Sasuke's injuries by saying, "He's right, no kill shot, the wounds are to pressure points." As Kakashi steadily removed the Senbon from Sasuke, Naruto called him over. Next, he requested that he prepare a lightning blade, similar to a defib. It worked after one attempt. "Great Izuna's ghost, that hurt," was uttered by Sasuke in a state of pain. At what the young Uchiha said, Madara simply grinned. "Okay, what's going on?" Sasuke asked, obviously perplexed by the absence of combat. "I'll explain later, right now we need you battle ready, Naruto." Sasuke stood up after a nod, and after a brief crack of his neck and knuckles and some stretches, he was prepared. Naruto asked Kakashi, "Kakashi-sensei, how's your chakra?" Kakashi thought to himself, "If I had to guess a percentage, I would say about 65%. Naruto said, as if posing a foolish query, "Zabuza, I hope you still have some fight left." As he lifted the executioner's blade onto his shoulders, Zabuza uttered the words, "Naturally." Naruto casually remarked to Haku, "Haku, you want to participate in what will soon be a massacre?" Haku stated, obviously wanting to carry out his statement, "That depends on whether I be doing the killing." As he considered his father, Naruto remarked, "No, because and I share this with all of you, the idea I have will down them in one shot." According to Kakashi, "You don't mean when he plays?" "Exactly." With one of his Hiraishin kunai, Naruto smiles. Zabuza's eyes enlarge as a result. "That's a clue as per whose lineage I belong to." In front of his teammates, his sensei, Zabuza, and Haku, Naruto displayed his kunai. "Kakashi, just humor me since an explanation is needed for those not privy. All of you direct the kunai you see on the ground all at once, and I do mean all at once," Naruto said, and Kakashi simply nodded. After nodding, everyone positioned themselves and picked up the kunai. And all of Naruto's kunai were in the air after 5 to 7 seconds of launching. The kunai were within range after 3 seconds of flight. Almost as quickly as a human blinking in less than a second. Only one remained standing. As he flashed to stop Gato's exit, Naruto declared, Zabuza, he's all yours. Thanks kid, Zabuza said as he and Haku hurried to get closer to Gato. Additionally, Gato fumbled himself out of fear for his demise. They took his head off his shoulders. As he left Gato's headless body, Zabuza remarked, "Well, that's that. So what next? Since I highly doubt you'd be forgiven for your crimes against the Hidden Mist Village, I am going to say you start over as Leaf Ninja," Naruto said with a straight face. "Will we be accepted?" Haku hesitantly asked. Sakura sarcastically remarked, "Yes, we of the Hidden Leaf might as well treat those with Kekkei Genkai as the jewels of our village, after hearing that you had not accepted." Sakura gestured to Sasuke and said, "My case in point can be made with Sasuke, I mean he's a heartthrob to a vast majority of our village's female population." Kakashi stated, "It's true. Okay, you've made your case, so we'll come with you to the Hidden Leaf Village," said Zabuza. "Zabuza, be advised, due to your past you'll probably have to consent to some prison time," said Naruto. "I'd be surprised if your village did overlook my past," replied Zabuza. They saw that everyone in the village was there and applauding their triumph. The remainder of the day was spent cleaning up. Naruto made sure that Gato's chakra was used to fix any damage and that his assets were used to restore as much of the country as money would permit. The bodies were dumped into the ocean by Kakashi. Sakura and Sasuke were in charge of the remaining protection detail. The bridge was completed and made public before they knew it, and was given its name in honor of the person who gave the word, courage, a new meaning in the land of waves. The bridge's name is the Great Naruto Bridge, and its secondary line reads, "The Bridge of Freedom which led us to our new hope, Naruto Uzumaki." After some traveling, Squad 7 and company returned to the Hidden Leaf, where they successfully snuck Haku and Zabuza in under the guise of lost travelers, and soon they were in the Hokage Tower, knocking on the door of the Hokage's office. "Come in," Hiruzen said from inside, and they went inside with Haku and the transformed Zabuza, temporarily parking them in the rear of the Hokage office. Hiruzen sighed with relief after finishing another piece of paperwork. "Squad 7 reporting mission accomplished, Hokage-sama," said Kakashi with an eye smile. "And a summarized report of our squad's mission for the first leg of getting him to the land of waves was for the most part uneventful -1 incident." Hiruzen became more interested, so he turned the paper he was working on so it faced down. Report. As it turned out, the client had ninja going after him, which naturally made his requested mission a mid-B rank or higher. Despite knowing the answer instinctively, Hiruzen asked, "Easy to assume you resumed the mission, despite the danger." "Indeed, and to sum up, we discovered the seriousness of the client's dire circumstances en route. Gato's now deceased tyrant ruled over his entire homeland, and he was constructing a bridge to escape the grip of the tyrants. Therefore, we temporarily waived the fee for the B-rank mission in exchange for a trade agreement between the Land of Waves and the Land of Fire and payment at a later time." Kakashi concluded his explanation of why they worked for free. "Well done. I'll let our feudal lord know about that pledge. Is there anything else?" Hiruzen asked. "During the course of the mission, we clashed with an infamous rogue ninja from the Hidden Mist who actually helped us complete our mission," Kakashi said. As the disguised Zabuza and Haku approached, Naruto said, "Which brings us to our next item of business, dispelling the transformation that caused the Anbu to emerge. These two wish to join our ranks and don't worry about their weapons," Naruto said, holding up the scroll. "I've sealed them into this scroll. According to their chakra and then jutsu, when the transformation was dispelled, the chakra suppression seals we applied to them came into effect. Naruto brought it to you politely," Kakashi remarked. The Anbu left after Hiruzen said, "Okay then," and motioned for them to stand down. Contrary to the headband, Haku, as Naruto stated, has no official affiliation with the Hidden Mist, which caused Haku to wave at Hiruzen. It was taken from a ninja, as a lab test will show, just in case you don't believe Haku when he says this. "And in exchange for Zabuza's time to be served before joining our ranks reduced in half, I offer you the bane of the paperwork that plagues you," Naruto said, pointing to the piles of paperwork scattered throughout the office. Please tell me." Holding Naruto's shoulders tightly, Hiruzen said frantically as he flashed at him with nearly Hiraishin speed. Kurama remarked with amusement, "You'd think he learned your Hiraishin, Minato." With a cartoon sweat drop, Minato stated, "Visually, it would seem that way." Naruto added, "Okay, the bane of paperwork is best summarized by 2 words, as his well-known fox-like grin spread across his face." "Which are?" Hiruzen inquired, his voice expressing his irritation at the abrupt silence. Naruto said, "Shadow clones," to a now face-palming Hiruzen. "Primordial plane, Seeing the verbal bomb that was about to be thrown, Cammy grabbed 3 pairs of earplugs out of thin air while she was watching the mortals below. She used the first pair for herself before running to Yami and Shinigami, who were playing shogi, and throwing them at her brothers. Her siblings snatched up the earplugs and put them in each other's ears as Cammy said, Hi pa ba dan. Short for Hiruzen's paperwork Bane discovery, bomb in 3, 2, 1. By the time Cammy finished speaking, one of them had already done so. Ah, a voice said, causing most of the aircraft to tremble as if an earthquake were occurring. What the devil was that? As if Cammy had personally dropped a bomb on them, Yami said. That would be one Hiruzen discovering the bane of paperwork, replied Cammy. Shinigami thought, for a man of Hiruzen's age, he still has some pretty potent pipes on him. Digging his left ear, which was still ringing a little even after putting in the earplugs prior to the scream, Yami said, I'll second that. Mortal plane. Hiruzen told the young genin, Naruto, my boy, consider your exchange deal sold. Shortly after Zabuza and Haku finished their paperwork, he mustered up as much chakra as he could and used 6 shadow clones to finish the remaining tasks. Then, holding a certain orange book it's a bit of a no-brainer which book it is, he hurried out of his office. Kushina snarled from inside Naruto's head, lecherous old man. Anbu escorted Zabuza outside, and Haku was escorted to Naruto's former apartment by Naruto's shadow clones. Well, now that Zabuza is squared away, Hiruzen was told by Naruto, my shadow clones will set Haku up in my old apartment since I'm gonna move into my mom's old house. How about living with your uncle? Minato inquired. Naruto answered his father, and bear the possibility of walking in on him and Makoto playing, hide the salami, no thank you. What? Came Madara's thoughtful reply. Minato whispers what Naruto meant in his ears, oh, gross. Naruto jogged out of the Hokage's office after saying aloud, on the subject of love and romance, to which he added, I've to see a certain Hyuga princess about a date. As he left the office, Kakashi remarked, well, I'm gonna go for a walk. Meanwhile, in a universe that is disconnected, she felt a wave of unease wash over her as she noticed a certain leader of a British vampire hunting organization sitting behind her desk. What gives me the clear feeling that Alucard is having an impact on the multiverse? She pondered in her mind. The voice of Alucard said, I'm going for a walk. You are the worst. As she leapt from behind her desk and chased after her vampire servant, Integra yelled. Returning to the main plot, Sakura couldn't help but nod with a smile on her face as Sasuke grunted, even though Naruto's time would be better suited towards becoming stronger, given his past, he is entitled to some happiness. So, Sasuke, I thought we could, take a cue from Naruto's date. Sakura inquired in an optimistic manner. Look, Sakura, you need to develop your own ninja technique. I won't deny that you're attractive, and that following Naruto's example has definitely made you stronger. This will assist you in defining your identity as a person and as a ninja. Putting a hand on Sakura's shoulder, Sasuke said, so my official answer to your question about following Naruto's date example is, yeah, but not now. Sakura looked away tragically. If you want to be with me, you have to prove that you are the one for me not only every chance you get while in front of me, but to everyone who interacts with you that way. Word of your deeds will reach me, Sasuke said, looking up at the sky. Sakura said with a slight smile and a dejected tone, okay, Sasuke. Naruto felt like he was being followed as he ran through the village, and he turned back to see square rocks. Minato remarked, another headache, in the immortal words of Lord Third. After sniffing the smoke, Naruto blew some of it away with his hand. Konohamaru, he began, if you're going to practice stealth, try something less conspicuous than square rocks and 2 holes. The disguise exploded in a display of colored smoke, and a lot less gunpowder. Naruto saw 2 more standing in the smoke with Konohamaru, and he said, somewhat disappointed, yeah, boss, I know. Are you friends with these 2? Konohamaru introduced himself, saying, yes they are, and we were hoping you'd help us with a game of ninja. Curious, Naruto asked, to essentially assist you in building teamwork skills and build stealth skills. Konohamaru grinned and said, exactly. A familiar voice yelled, a ninja playing ninja. The 4 turned to see Sakura glaring at them disapprovingly. Oh, Sakura, you were obviously not here for very long since they're in the academy. The game I'll be playing with them is to help them become better ninja. With his pinky out, Konohamaru trailed off, say boss is she, your. Please don't make fun of me, Konohamaru, she's just my friend and teammate, Naruto said, sounding somewhat offended. That's a relief, Then Sakura gave both Konohamaru and Naruto a nasty lump on their heads, and Konohamaru interrupted him, saying, I mean, with that flat chest, I'd be Sir. I apologize to the readers, but I have nothing to say between point A, when Sakura leaves, and point B, when Konohamaru is foolish enough to insult her once more, original, so I'm just going to skip it. As he retreated slowly, perspiring, Naruto said, Konohamaru, are you perhaps familiar with the phrase, hell hath no fury like a woman scorned? No, boss. You knuckleheads, run. Naruto shouted to the Konohamaru corp while running away, run. As he was a few feet away from them, Naruto yelled. Konohamaru turned to face a Sakura, who now had an angry expression that promised pain. Oh, Konohamaru said with a trembling laugh as he turned slowly away, right behind ya, boss. Konohamaru exclaimed as he bounded past Naruto. When Naruto saw Konohamaru pulling away, he thought, said the academy student running ahead of me. After Konohamaru turned a corner, he found himself falling back onto the ground. Ow! Konohamaru moaned as he looked up and saw two genin, one with a fan on her back and the other dressed in black with something wrapped in bandages. May I assist you? As he reached down to grab Konohamaru by the scarf, the black-clad boy inquired. Put him down, Kankuro, the girl reprimanded, or you'll pay for it later. Naruto added, actually, that will be happening sooner than you think. And why is that? Kankuro asked arrogantly. A voice they didn't recognize said, I'm why, as they turned to face Mikuru Namikaze. Uncle, it's cool, I got this. So I should be afraid that you have your uncle. Kankuro made fun of it. Yeah, you'd like that, Mikuru said, but I'm not why you should be scared. At that moment, a pebble snagged Kankuro's hand. Sakura let out a fangirl squeal when she saw Sasuke, and Kankuro opened his mouth to respond, but froze when he felt cold steel on his neck. When Naruto removed his sword from Kankuro's neck, he relaxed. Don't even think about it, Naruto whispered into Kankuro's ear, if you go for that thing on your back, it will be the last thing you ever do. Using his thumb to indicate a source of bloodlust that was present in the area, Mikuru said, as I said, I'm not the one you should fear, pausing before adding, he is, isn't that right? Am I the desert prince? To Sakura and Sasuke's mild shock and Temari and Kankuro's fear, Mikuru asked the red brownish-haired boy who was standing in the tree nearby. How was I sensed by him? After pondering, Gaara turned to his brother and glared at his teammate, Kankuro, keep a hold of yourself, or I'll kill you. Looking at the other boy, Sasuke thought, he's no ordinary guy, I can tell that guy has the stare like a basilisk, and his movements are even smoother than Kakashi-sensei, just from the victim of his stare. To get his Jinchuriki's attention, Kurama said, Naruto, that kid holds the one tail. Are you certain of this? Naruto answered, startled. Hashirama replied, he is, and Kushina nodded, I can back him on that. Gaara said, now, let's go, as he and his teammates turned to depart after being sand-shunned by their teammates. We didn't come here to play around, Temari, Kankuro, he said. Sakura yelled, hold it, drawing the other genin's attention. The Leaf Village and Sand Village are allies, but you can't just go around without a formal reason, so explain why you're there. Temari said sarcastically, oh, you know we were just in the area and thought this would make for a delightful summer home, and then she asked, why the fuck do you think we're here? But at the same time, according to the terms of the international agreement of these exams, all foreign teams are to check in with the hosting village's Anbu Black Ops. Mikuru added, the Chunin exams, you have two choices, then, if you three are unable to provide evidence that you have already checked in. Mikuru held up one finger and said, follow me to the Anbu check-in station, and we'll get this all settled. Mikuru then held up a second finger and said, if you three resist, this will be deemed a violation of international law, and you will be detained for questioning as a result. Following that, you will be swiftly returned to your village, and your village will not be allowed to take part in the next 3 Chunin exams. Naruto whistled, damn, uncle, did your parents give you law books when you were a child? As Mikuru scowled at his nephew, a tick mark appeared on his head. Ha ha ha, Minato chuckled and gripped his stomach, saying, I can't, I'm having trouble breathing haha. I know you're laughing at me, Mikuru yelled, brother. Minato immediately stopped talking. Oh right, I forgot he could hear us. Anyway, Mikuru said, glancing down at the Sand Genin, who all appeared to be quite perplexed, have you three checked in yet? Yes, Temari said, presenting her passport bearing the official Chunin exam seal stamped on it, we have. Gaara, Temari, and Kankuro shook their heads and said, excellent, Then I trust you three don't need help finding the hotel that the foreign teams are assigned. Wonderful. Then, I bid you all adieu. Mikuru then disappeared in a blur of speed, and Gaara turned to face Naruto and Sasuke. Who are the two of you? Gaara inquired. It's considered rude to demand a stranger's name before giving yours, Sasuke responded. My name is Gaara of the desert. With all the pride in his family name, Sasuke answered, my name is Sasuke Uchiha. Then Naruto gave his name, and I'm Naruto Uzumaki. Mother will enjoy your blood, Gaara said, his expression changing from blank to more bloodthirsty, you're both strong. Naruto put his hands in his pockets and glared at Gaara, saying, well, tell your mother that if you think you're bad, I'm 9 times worse. Gaara's eyes widened in shock, and Temari and Kankuro exchanged bewildered looks, but Sasuke and Sakura understood exactly what Naruto was talking about. When Sakura heard, this guy's a jinchuriki too, she went pale. He's 9 times worse if Naruto is telling Gaara looking at his teammate, Sasuke thought, then he's the jinchuriki of the one tail. Well, Naruto said, turning to face his teammates, I'm sorry, but that was thrilling. I will return to my previous task. Naruto leapt off in the direction of the training fields, saying, talk to you later. When Naruto reached training ground 8, Hinata, Kiba, and Shino were all sitting on the ground, breathing heavily, as if they had just finished a 3-way deadlock match. Naruto called out to the Hyuga heiress, who turned around with a flushed face, recalling what her father had told her. Hi, Naruto, Hinata said with a little stammer. Are you busy, may I ask? Not really. Our most recent training session just ended. Why? Well, Naruto said, rubbing the back of his head as a faint flush came over his face, I was wondering if you would like to join me in getting some ramen. Hinata's expression turned as red as a tomato. Did I hear correctly? Naruto wants to date me. Please don't let me wake up if this is a dream, Kami-sama. Primordial plane. Shinigami was trying not to look at Kami, who had the smuggest of expressions on her face, while Yami's jaw had fallen as they watched Naruto and Hinata. Well, began Kami. No, as he handed Kami a stack of solid gold coins from his pocket, Shinigami interrupted his sister. Kami glanced back down at the two shinobi and said, go for it, Hinata. Mortal plane, obviously. Hinata's face darkened as she yelled. With a silly grin, Naruto said, awesome, let's go. Naruto took Hinata's hand and the two of them ran off in the direction of Ichiraku, while Kiba and Shino exchanged glances. Did that actually just occur? Kiba questioned his stoic companion. Shino retorted, you might want to see a doctor if you have any doubts about your vision. I did notice that Naruto had just asked Hinata out, in case you were wondering. Okay, cool, just wondering. Office of the Hokage. Hiruzen was surrounded by Kakashi, Kurenai, Guy, Asuma, and Iruka. We all know that the Chunin exams will start tomorrow. Hiruzen said we stand for the land of fire and the hidden leaf. I will now find out which teams will be taking part as a result. Guy took the stage. I, Might Guy, Junin Sensei of Neji Hyuga, Tenten Tetsutsuki, and Rock Lee, recommend all 3 of my genin for the Chunin exams. Next, Kakashi came forward. I, Kakashi Hatake, Junin Sensei of Naruto Uzumaki, Sasuke Uchiha, and Sakura Haruno, recommend all 3 of my genin for the Chunin exams. Then Kurenai came forward. I, Kurenai Yuhi, Junin Sensei of Hinata Hyuga, Shino Aburame, and Kiba Inuzuka, recommend all 3 of my genin for the Chunin exams. Asuma followed suit. I, Asuma Sarutobi, Junin Sensei of Ino Yamanaka, Shoji Akamichi, and Shikamaru Nara recommend all 3 of my genin for the Chunin exams. They all recently received their degrees. Iruka objected, saying, that's way too early. Guy said, I'm inclined to concur with Iruka, you're acting too quickly. My eternal rival even I held off on endorsing my team for a full year. Huh, Kakashi said, turning to face Guy, have you said anything? Goddamn you and your cool hip attitude. Guy gripped his head. As he watched the two Junin interact, Hiruzen noted, he's enjoying this. Kakashi said to Iruka, I understand that you're concerned about the genin, but they are no longer your students since you taught them. A lot has changed, and they are now ours. But they might be killed by the exams. They're not prepared, Iruka retorted. I was only 6 when I took the Chunin exams. War was raging at the time. If you want to test my team, feel free, but if you find they're ready, you'll have to pay for the next 4 Ika Ika series books, Kakashi said. Then how about a wager? Iruka sighed, I'll revoke my recommendation if you can demonstrate that they aren't. Fine, Alongside Sakura and Sasuke. Sakura and Sasuke were standing in battle stances in Training Ground 7. "Are you ready?" Sasuke inquired. Sakura said, "When you are." The two genin charged at each other without saying anything more. Sakura kicked Sasuke, who blocked it, then ducked, sweeping her feet to avoid the counterattack, only to see a wave of shuriken flying at her. The shuriken dug into Sakura, who then replaced herself. Sakura then began weaving hand signs, and Sasuke recognized the signs and prepared his Sharingan by activating his Sharingan, Demon Illusion, Hell Viewing Technique. Demon Illusion. Reversal of Genjutsu. Sakura's eyes met Sasuke's, and as her vision cleared, she saw that she was in the streets of Konoha, but that only they were covered in blood. Sakura gasped in horror as she saw Sasuke and Naruto on the ground, both of them covered in blood, and they weren't moving. A man with jet black hair pulled back in a low ponytail and a face framed by center-parted bangs that reached his chin. The bangs and the ponytail grew longer over the years, and he looked a lot like Sasuke, even down to the Sharingan in both of his eyes, each of which had 3 tomo marks like Kakashi's. He was wearing the standard Anbu uniform, and he was holding a blood-soaked tanto. The man said, "Such weakness," in a cool, collected voice. "You have forgotten what makes you strong," he said, glancing down at Sasuke. "My stupid little brother." As the genjutsu broke and everything around her returned to normal, Sakura screamed, "Your village now pays the price for your weakness." Sakura. Sasuke's voice caused her to return to normal as she saw Sasuke looking at her, concern on his face. "Are you alright?" What was that?" Sakura stammered as she turned to face Sasuke, who was staring at the floor. "I'm terrified. I'm sorry you had to see that," Sasuke said, helping Sakura to her feet. "I'm afraid Itachi," he said, spitting his brother's name, "will come back and kill everyone I care about." "Ah, how cute," a new voice called out, and 2 genin turned to see a shinobi wearing a cloak and a hidden rain village forehead protector. "You two really should," he said, but he was interrupted by Sakura and Sasuke charging in. Sasuke has improved since the academy, Iruka thought as he sparred with the young Uchiha, and Sasuke leapt back and reached into his kunai pouch, throwing shuriken at the disguised academy instructor. Sasuke has improved since the academy. Iruka retaliated by drawing a sword and slicing the kunai out of the air, then charged in, only to be caught by a tree that sprung to life and ensnaring him. Sakura emerged from the tree, kunai in hand, and Iruka struggled to break free. Sakura said, "It's over, Demon Illusion. Binding Tree of Death." Sakura stabbed Iruka in the neck with her kunai, aiming for the carotid artery. A true kunoichi would go for the kill before declaring it. Iruka flared his chakra, breaking Sakura's control over it and breaking the genjutsu. "You shouldn't reveal your tricks so easily, little girl." The air heated as Iruka heard the crackling fire, and when he turned around, he saw a fireball roaring toward him. "We know," Sasuke's voice came right behind Iruka, who turned around, only to have Sasuke's fist collide with his face, sending the disguised Chunin flying back into Sakura's waiting fist, who then swiftly uppercut him in the stomach, sending Iruka into the air. Oh my god, he was consumed by the flames. "Well done, Sasuke-kun," Sakura yelled. As promised, the Iruka had made a substitution, and a charred log dropped to the ground. "Don't drop your guard," Sasuke reprimanded. He might have escaped. With the lightning blade crackling in his hand, Sasuke charged, taunting Iruka. Not bad at all, but of course Sasuke, stop," Iruka said, waving his hands in front of him. "It's me," Iruka said, dispelling the transformation. Sasuke froze in place, the lightning blade still fluttering in his hand. "Iruka-sensei, what the devil? Do you have a policy of killing anyone who merely tries to attack you?" Iruka broke down in tears at Sasuke's casual reply. "But we're off topic. We are shinobi. You taught us that it's usually the worse in many situations. You attacked Sakura and me, but why?" Iruka sighed. "I was testing you. You'll find out soon enough. Even though I'm not supposed to tell you this, you have been recommended by Kakashi to take the Chunin exams." "Oh, that's right," Sakura said. "I forgot Konoha was hosting the Chunin exams this year." "Yeah, when Kakashi recommended you 3, I protested as I didn't think you were ready. Now, what are your thoughts, Iruka-sensei?" With a faint smirk, Sasuke inquired. "Well, you two could hold your own quite well, and your teamwork was flawless." Iruka turned to Sakura. "Although you still have some fangirl tendencies, you've definitely improved dramatically since the academy." Sakura rubbed the back of her head and said, "Well, Sasuke-kun and Naruto gave me a reality check that I desperately needed, but if I'm still getting distracted, I've got some work to do." Sasuke retorted, Your timing with genjutsu was perfect. Don't undervalue yourself. Supreme awesomeness, or something similar would have been your only response if this had happened a year ago. Sakura blushed a little when she was called out. As Iruka added, I have to agree with Sasuke. In any case, you both passed my little test with flying colors. Iruka teleported off, and Sakura and Sasuke exchanged horrified glances. Now, I'm going to test Naruto, don't warn him. Naruto mentioned that he and Hinata were going on a date, right? Sakura answered, yeah, he did. This is not going to end well, is it? Probably not. Want to observe? Sasuke gave Sakura a raised eyebrow. Is this a pretext to try to persuade me to go on a mini date of some kind? No, I'm not going to force the issue if you're not ready. With an inward smile, Sasuke said, she's learning. The phrase, an intense chakra presence filled the air as a furious Naruto emerged from the woods, his eyes once again in the Mangekyo Sharingan state, and a scream was heard as Iruka, once again in his transformed state, crashed into a tree. Uh-oh, Sasuke swallowed as waves of anger rolled off Naruto. As he cracked his knuckles, Naruto began, I don't know who you are. But not only did you interrupt your date with Hinata, which is a sin in and of itself that is punishable by death, but I wasted valuable ramen because of you. We cannot allow that kind of sacrilege. I hope you've made peace with Kami-sama because I will show you no mercy. Naruto's anger caused his chakra to flare, and the ground around them cracked and splintered as the chakra's unseen pressure had an impact on the environment. Why did I accept this foolish wager? As he observed his favorite pupil fall into his sword stance, blade out, Iruka grumbled, you're a blustery brat, aren't you? Sensing the attack, Naruto spun around and channeled wind chakra through the sword, then began slicing through the shuriken as if they were soft butter. Naruto then sheathed his sword and started weaving hand signs. Naruto charged forward, bringing his blade down at Iruka's neck, but Iruka quickly used a substitution to avoid the fatal blow. Iruka used the distraction to throw several kunai at Naruto from his blind spot. Fire style. Magnificent flame of a demolisher. As they got closer to Iruka, who began making his own signs, Naruto let loose a torrent of flame, the heat of which scorched the ground. Water style. Water wall. As the nearby lake surged, the water swirled to create a protective wall around the Chunin, and the wave of fire collided with the wall of water, causing steam to generate and quickly engulf the area. Iruka, using his training, used the steam as a cloak to approach Naruto in silence, only to have the genin leap from the steam, right at him, with several balls of fire trailing in the air behind him, each the size of a small elephant. Iruka's eyes widened in horror as the fireballs converged on him, and he jumped back to avoid them, but they exploded, sending shockwaves back as he slid across the lake. It's not real. Iruka charged Naruto, saying, I have to stop him from weaving signs. He threw a punch at Naruto, who blocked, countering with a sweep to the legs, which Iruka jumped over, landed on one hand, and used the rotation of his body to deliver a devastating roundhouse kick to Naruto's ribcage. The blow collided, but Naruto vanished in a poof of smoke, and in a battle of ninjutsu, Naruto's got the upper hand, thanks to the Kyuubi inside him. A Rasengan formed in Naruto's hand as the steam cloud moved and he emerged from the displaced steam in midair. Rasengan. When Naruto thrust his hand out, the ground exploded from contact with the jutsu, and Iruka leapt back to avoid the chakra sphere. Come on. Oh. Dropping the transformation, Iruka yelled, Sasuke first, then you. Why are my pupils attempting to murder me? Naruto shot Iruka a glare in response. You made me waste ramen, he said. Naruto began to move forward, saying, you know I'm only allowed to go to that shop once a month, thanks to my teachers. Naruto took Iruka by the collar and pulled the Chunin to face him, saying, to make it worse, this was supposed to be my first date with Hinata. Now, what the hell is she going to think of me? As the Hyuga heiress emerged from the surrounding forest, Hinata's voice could be heard. I'd say I think you owe me another. Naruto grinned at Hinata, who flushed, and said, well, I can't exactly say no, now can I? Then Naruto faced Iruka. So, what exactly were you doing, Iruka-sensei? He was testing us to ensure that the three of us were ready for the Chunin exams, replied Sasuke. He attacked us earlier, and we passed. Naruto questioned, what about the other teams? Well, I can't do Team 8 now that Hinata's witnessed me, Iruka murmured. I'm not entirely sure what to do, but I do know I'll need to leave. Best of luck to you all. Iruka was teleported away. With Kakashi. While waiting for Iruka to come back, Kakashi stood on a rooftop holding a copy of Ika Ika. Iruka used the teleportation jutsu and emerged a few seconds later. So, Kakashi said without turning to face the Chunin, Did you like having my cute little genin kick your ass? Iruka gave Kakashi a fierce look and said, you were watching the entire time. Yep, Kakashi said with a smile into the Chunin's eyes. I hate you, snarled Iruka, so much. Iruka paled considerably when he was reminded of the wager he and Kakashi had made. Just to let you know, Jiraiya-sama said the next book is a collector's edition, and I'll be placing the pre-order today since you lost our bet. You'll be paying for it. Kakashi teleported away, leaving Iruka to think alone. I'll come to collect you later. For now, I need to talk to my adorable little genin. Returning to Team 7, on a big blanket that Naruto had bought, Sakura, Sasuke, Hinata, and Naruto were seated. Naruto concluded by summarizing their most recent mission, and then we managed to kill Gato, freeing the people of Nami from his tyranny. Wow, Hinata said, that mission must have been really demanding. Before anyone could respond, Kakashi emerged in a poof of smoke. Sakura added, yeah, no kidding, I wasn't sure we'd make it out with our lives. Sakura, Sasuke, Hinata, and Naruto stood up and gazed at the Chunin. After saying, yo, to the genin, Kakashi turns to face Hinata. Hinata, what are you doing here? Aren't you on Team 8? Still swooning inwardly that Naruto had asked her out, Hinata stammered the final line, Naruto-kun and I are on a date. Well, Kakashi said with a small smile, I'm sorry to cut it short, but I need to have a meeting with my team. Hinata turned to Naruto and said, oh okay, bye and Naruto-kun. Naruto grinned at her and said, later, Hinata-chan. Gathering all her courage, Hinata took Naruto by the hem of his clothing and drew him into a kiss. Sakura was grinning, Sasuke's jaw had fallen, and Naruto's face had flushed. Sakura exclaimed, way to go, Hinata. Ha 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 ha. Kushina exclaimed, laughing at her son's humiliation, I like her. I have to admit, added Minato, under her shy demeanor, I see a lot of Kushina in her. As she sprinted away, Hinata chanted in her mind, I kissed Naruto-kun, I kissed Naruto-kun. Stunned, Naruto remained motionless. Sasuke teasingly said, Naruto, don't ever think I've seen you at a loss for words. Naruto touched his lips in numb shock. She kissed me, Naruto said under his breath. Naruto leapt into the air and then fell, landing on his feet, saying, Hinata-chan kissed me, what a spitfire. Kakashi yelled, Naruto, and brought Naruto back to the present. Yeah, Kakashi-sensei, can you focus, please? Okay. Kakashi dramatically coughed into his fist and said, excellent. With a dramatic flourish, Kakashi produced 3 pieces of paper and gave one to each of the 3 genin. As you 3 are aware, the Chunin exams are being hosted in Konoha this year, and, as your Chunin sensei, it is my choice whether or not I recommend you 3 to partake in those exams. You 3 did so well in our rank mission, I've decided to recommend you. Madara inquired, what are the Chunin exams? Your guess is as good as mine, Hashirama responded. There wasn't anything like that when I was Hokage. It's an exam setup that was established after the Third Shinobi World War, Minato responded. Sandaime-sama created it as a way for genin to promote without the need for heroism in times of war, less bloodshed this way. Hashirama said, oh, that makes sense, thank you, Minato-san. You're welcome, Shodaime-sama. Just keep in mind, you're under no obligation to accept, Kakashi said. If you don't think you're ready, there's no shame in bowing out, but if you're up for it, you were to report to classroom 301 in the academy building in 3 hours. That was the end of it. Naruto turned to his teammates and said, well, to begin, there's no way in hell I'm not going. I'm not going to back down, Sakura said, punching her fist. Moaned Sasuke, I'm not about to let you 2 show me up. Time skip. After 3 hours. Eventually, Team 7 ascended the next set of stairs. After making their way through the school building, a group of students was standing outside a classroom. When they got to the landing on the tag above the door, Naruto noticed the number 301 at that moment. Someone from the genin group speaks up, and a boy in a green jumpsuit gets punched back. Let us in, we need to register for the exams. One of the genin guards remarks, the Chunin exams are really difficult, kids, you should just give up. The girl with the bunny hair said, please let us through. Why would fellow Leaf Shinobi do this? The first guard punched the girl, saying, shut up. Sakura clenched her fists and snarled, ready to discipline the other guard. Whispering, hold on, Sakura, Naruto placed a hand on her shoulder. Sakura looked at the sign and then used her genjutsu training to feel the chakra around it being disrupted. Take a closer look at the sign, something's not right. A genjutsu, Sakura returned in a whisper. As quietly as he had said, yeah, Sasuke said, Naruto and I just noticed it a second ago. I think this is some kind of test. Good point, Sakura responded. If they can't see through a genjutsu like this, then they aren't worthy of being Chunin. Sakura grimaced as Naruto continued, plus, we're on the second floor. How did I not notice? Sasuke reassured her, saying, it's okay, we all have our dumb blonde moments. Note to self, Naruto snarled in his mind, prank Sasuke hard when these exams are over. Sasuke shrank slightly. Sasuke shrugged and asked, why do I feel like I've unintentionally invoked an ancient doom upon myself? Naruto and Sakura nodded, and the three of them proceeded up the next set of stairs, arriving at an empty hallway with the actual room 301 at the end. Anyway, we should go up to the next floor, Kakashi teleported in as they approached. Oh good, said Kakashi as he grinned at the trio, you're all here. Sakura questioned, why, would it be bad if one of us went missing? Yes, if all three of you hadn't shown up, I'd have no choice but to ban you from the exams. Naruto objected, saying, but you said we were under no obligation to accept. I said that so you wouldn't pressure Sakura into accepting. I wanted this to be her choice. I knew if I told you this and you and Sasuke didn't back down, Sakura would be forced to agree or risk you two turning on her. Hey, pointed out Sakura, I'm not that weak. After saying, I know, Kakashi touched her head. Kakashi glanced at his other pupils and said, you've come a long way since the bell test, but I wanted to test your true resolve. Kakashi disappeared once more, and Sasuke began to move forward with excitement. Well, since you're all here, welcome, Team 7, to the first stage of the Chunin exams. Sakura grabbed Naruto's wrist as he began to follow. Hey, Naruto. Naruto turned to Sakura and said, what's up, Sakura? You're a skilled sensory type, right? Well, I don't like to toot my own horn. Naruto briefly closed his eyes and asked, is Ino in that room? No, said Naruto, opening his eyes, she's about 2 floors below us. Why? Looking at Sakura, Naruto's bewilderment transformed into a sinister expression. I want to pull a prank on her. What do you have in mind? I want to use the transformation jutsu. Any ideas? Naruto grinned, made 3 clones of himself, made the required gesture, and changed into an exact replica of Sasuke. I've got one. After assuming the identities of Asuma and Kakashi, the other 2 employed the transparency jutsu that Madara had taught Naruto. Knowing Naruto's plan, Kushina laughed and said, this is going to be fun. Madara rolled his eyes and said, you Uzumaki and your pranks. Want to repeat that? Kushina asked in a chilly tone, and Naruto saw his mother in a furious mood. Nothing. Why the clone? The clone of Naruto answered, so Ino doesn't get suspicious, and for my idea. So, what's the idea? Just watch and play along. Ino and her teammates ascended the stairs a short while later. When Ino saw Sasuke, her eyes glowed. Ino gave a flirtatious greeting. Oh, hey there, handsome. Sakura began to twitch her left eye at that moment. The Asuma and Kakashi clones emerged. Oh, well then, began Kakashi, this is awkward. Asuma replied, yeah. When Ino asked, what's awkward? Asuma-sensei. Asuma rubbed the back of his head and said, see, the thing is, I may have forgotten to tell you that the Chunin exams only accepts a certain amount of shinobi from the hosting village. So, which team arrived first? Our team, Sakura said, realizing Naruto's scheme. I see, Asuma said, turning to face his group. Well, since you 3 arrived last, unfortunately, I'm going to have to deny your entry to the Chunin exams, as Team 7 was the last team that can be accepted. What? Exclaimed Ino, startled. Shikamaru remarked mockingly, oh no, what a tragedy, and Ino fell to her knees. Oh well, guess there's always next year. No, now I can't prove myself to Sasuke-kun, and what makes it worse, Billboard Brow gets to become a Chunin before me. I'll never hear the end of this. Sakura chuckled to herself. Someone give Naruto an award for this top-tier acting. The door behind her opened, and Sasuke stuck his head out, saying, he's even copied Asuma-sensei's body patterns. Hey, Dobi, Sakura, can you stop screwing around and get in here? Asked Sasuke when Ino saw the real Sasuke. His head shot upwards. He then turned to face Naruto and appeared to make the connection. As he ran toward the clone, Ino yelled, Naruto, is this just one of your stupid pranks? Kurama laughed at his jinchuriki and said, busted. Minato laughed and said, he had her going for a minute. Ah, man, Kushina said with a little moan, Sasuke has some really shitty timing like most Uchiha. Hey, exclaimed Madara, ha 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 ha, Hashirama exclaimed, amused by his friend's bad luck, called out. Naruto exclaimed, "Shut up, Hashirama," and threw out his transformation jutsu and clones. Naruto gave a small laugh and said, "Yeah, it was." The five of them joined Sasuke inside the classroom where the first exam was to be held after he said, "Well, we might as well go on in."
So that's it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe to the channel for more awesome stories like this. Thank you. See you all in my next video.